All right, looks like we're live here on the channel. Welcome. This is the Comic Aficionados. I'm your host, West, and today we've got four great panel members. My co-host, as always, the Doctor. What's up, man?
What up, guys?
We got Jeremy returning after a 2-week hiatus. Do a little bit of a. I think you were a little sick. How you feeling, buddy?
I feel better now. I got my coffee. I'm good.
Nice. Pele has also returned, the resident retailer.
Morning, gentlemen, or evening.
And Ashon Comics is also here, but I think he actually stepped out for a second, so I'm sure
I have returned.
Oh, well, Ash is here. How you doing, man?
Hey, good morning, everybody.
I think we were debating who's the youngest, though, Ash. Are you the youngest?
Am I the youngest? No.
Yes. Damn it. I am. Fuck.
I'm sure you are with your nice little baby face there.
I'm the baby.
Oh. You're only 30, man. You're like old pup.
30 feels old. I don't know.
Just wait till you get to 40.
God, I wish I was.
My favorite thing to do is bitch about my age to people that are older than me. It's the best.
All right, so the big topic on the channel today is going to be the DC Comics flops. Then after that, we're going to transition into a little bit of a Comics Alliance talk. We kind of talked about both the subjects a little bit, but I want to expand on them. And then there's been a bunch of news actually that came out in the last 24 hours, and we'll try and hit that as well. So Bendis was brought in last year. He got his run on Man of Steel, which started out with 87,000 sold on issue 1. By issue 6, it was down to 65,000. He was given the keys to Superman and Action Comics, and it's been on a downward trajectory ever since. Issue 1 of Superman sold 137,000. The last issue only sold 51,000. Action Comics issue 1001 sold 82,000 on his first issue, and last issue was down to 45,000. So I don't think that DC Comics has definitely got the return on investment that they were expecting. Doctor, is this something that you would have expected, being a Marvel fan, and he'd been there for so long?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you got a guy that's so synonymous with one publisher, when he comes to another, it almost never really works. They never really fit. And while they get a lot of, I guess, preliminary, promo stuff out of it, with the Bendis is coming, it's really not much different than whenever Kirby went over to DC back in the 70s. When he made that jump, that was huge for the industry, but it never translated into sales. It never translated into anything that was, outside of the Fourth World, it wasn't really anything amazing. It's not like he went over there and started going nuts with creating stuff that fit within their kind of more central universe, because the Fourth World's always been kind of, even after Kirby created it was always kind of the fringe stuff, except for Darkseid. It was always the fringe stuff. And so when Kirby went over there, it was a big deal, but it didn't amount to anything. Not anything of any real consequence. And I feel like this is the same thing with Bendis.
Yeah, Forever People was really good, but New Gods, but it was. I wouldn't call it a flop, but it was definitely downscale from where he was.
I agree with your statement completely, except for the one gaping mistake that you made, which was comparing Bendis to Kirby.
Well,
ouch! That was kind of a burn.
Well, yeah, that's a valid point, but I guess my point
was earth shift when Kirby rocked in his grave when he said that.
Yeah, I get that, but my point is,
I get it. It was just a chance to make a joke.
Yeah. All right. Well, I suck.
Just leave. I know. I used to be a pretty big Bendis fan until I think the whole Gay Bobby X-Men thing. That really pissed me off. That's when I kind of got off the hype train. Until then, I was actually all for Bendis. But that's when I said I'm done. Oof.
And the shit hit the fan. Then I had so many customers cancel X-Men titles and anything having to do with Iceman after that. I mean,
We
it was
did it in
just,
such a shitty way, Bubby.
he was mind raped.
What?
He
Ugh.
was mind raped. He was
Yep.
mind raped. I mean, there's no other way to explain it.
Gene is just like, come on, Bobby. I know you're gay. I was like, what? It was the dumbest reveal. Are you kidding me? You're a writer. This is pretty uncreative.
I think whatever creativity Bendis
Ooh.
has, he dried up years ago.
Oof, I was done. And I remember he was doing the Miles with Ultimate Spider-Man, and he just left a big cliffhanger at the end where he just like beat up all the bad guys and didn't explain it. I was like, what? This is dumb. I'm so done with you, Bendis. You guys
Yeah,
great ideas. I'll give him that, but you just can't execute it. Nothing.
I was out of comics during most of the prime time of Bendis's run, but I kept my ear close enough to the hobby because it's always been something I love. So I knew who Bendis was as he was being hyped. I paid attention to while he was becoming famous, doing Daredevil and all these things. So when I was back into comics and he made the big jump and everything, I was like an advocate for him. I was like, look, man, this guy is famous for a reason. He's done basically something only Frank Miller was able to do before him, which was make Daredevil cool again. And he's gonna write DC comics. Marvel's a sinking ship. They don't have editors. We know all these problems, right? DC's not that way. I was this big push. It's gonna be different when he's under editors. He's got Superman. That's their flagship title. They're not gonna just turn the other cheek. They're gonna keep him honest. And I was writing reviews and posting videos when Man of Steel is coming out. And honestly, those first 4 or 5 issues were actually really good. And I was like, look, look, get off the hate train. And then issue 6 came out and it was just like, what the bleep is this? What the?
I gave Man of Steel a try, but I didn't.
That was the biggest cuckening in comic books history. I mean, when you're cucked by your own father, I mean, holy shit.
Damn. Ooh.
Well, that didn't happen in Man of Steel. That happened in Superman afterwards, but you're right. Yeah, I agree.
So Ash, you're the only one that I know that's actually read every single issue of his Man of Steel, Action Comics, and Superman. What keeps you coming back for more? Is it the pain?
The fans.
the channel?
It is by far my most viewed review.
Okay.
Like over double any other comic I review. People love to listen to Bendis reviews. And to be quite honest, I started discovering that's like, you know what? I'm not really having fun reading this comic, but I'm having a blast roasting it and, pointing out all the flaws. And so I'm like, it kind of pays for it in that aspect. And I feel like I'm doing the community a service.
Definitely be therapeutic when you get through one of these really bad books that is crap, and you just get a dog crap all over it because it deserves it, and let everyone know. That's what they aren't missing.
I will give Bendis like one piece of credit though. Like his books are not painful. Like the guy has an ability to write a very easygoing style. So as you're flipping the pages and you're like reading the panels and doing stuff, it's not like it's painful. It's not boring. It's not like I can't even finish this. Most of his comics I'm like breeze through and I'm done. I'm like, oh, that's the end. It's bad when it's done and you sit back and be like, what?
Which issue is the one where Superman's front and center? It's got big word bubbles right in front of him.
That's the most recent one.
Is that the most recent one? Because that's the most Bendis thing I've ever fucking seen. Because it even has word bubbles and then the narration
right over his face,
right over his whole body, over the bubbles.
And he did it intentionally.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, I called him out on that huge. It's like one of those things. Like I said, I read the book, and during the book, I'm like, oh, now, especially now that I'm negative about it, I'm starting to see a lot of the negative things as I'm reading. But a lot of the times, it's at the end when you put everything together, and you're like, wait a second, what did I just read? And then you go back, and you're like, are you kidding me? But as you're reading it, you're like, oh, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So I have to give him that. There's other books where I'm sure, I don't know if any of you guys have read like Mark Russell, where you just want to just put your head through the table as you know by the second page.
Yeah. Mark
So you got
Russell's
experience with
terrible.
that, Doctor.
That's the Wonder Twins, right?
Yeah, it's
That is-
Mark Russell's doing a couple of things at DC, and he was the one that was supposed to be doing that one with Richard Pace that got canceled, the Jesus
That is
one.
a trash fire.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
does
that is
the,
trash.
the infamous
Ain't it?
Harley Quinn 56 issue, which is the most SJW comic ever. It's pretty much an allegory to Comicsgate.
Like he went harder than Bemis.
Oh, it's,
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Harley
holy
Quinn
shit,
56 is literally an allegory against it's anti-Comicsgate with Harley Quinn as the champion, and he writes Harley Quinn like as a hero, and you're just like, what are you I did a 45-minute video on this book.
It's kind of cringy to even reference modern events like that. Like, ugh,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
he does this allegory where instead of comic skaters, he paints them as pet shop owners. And it's the white patriarchy pet shop owners that only want to sell pets to white men. It is so bad. It's
That's
so
not a
bad.
story. That's not a story.
But it's something DC printed.
So
That sounds
is
like
Mark
something in a
Russell-
small corner of a newspaper you just ignore. Like, what? Fuck that. I don't care.
So I didn't want to derail off of Bendis because I know that was Wes's topic, but my point to say was at least Bendis isn't doing that. So as much as we can rail on him, give him a little ounce of credit, maybe. I don't know.
So he's brought in a lot of people, like seemingly with him, like G. Willow Wilson, the writers on some of his Wonder comics. Was Mark Russell one of those also, or was he already at DC?
No, he was already at DC.
Okay,
He was
so-
Yeah.
he's Dan Didio's pet project.
Oh,
Oh, cute.
No, because Bendis brought, David Walker. I think he was trying to bring in Chelsea Kane. He definitely brought in G. Willow Wilson.
mhm.
And I think he at least was somewhat influential in them bringing over Mrs. Fraction. I won't even give her real name.
Oh, her. I had to think about that for a second.
Well, that's
Oh, yeah.
pretty nice of you to call her that. I mean, since she won't even call herself that.
I'm doing it intentionally.
Oh.
But she was already announced to be on a DC Black Label book before he arrived, though, right? So I think she was already going to be there a little bit.
Yes, she was announced to be on Black Label before she started her Hawkman run, or not
Sounds
Hawkman,
like a
Hawkman.
Portland hell episode. Ugh.
It is. It's
That's what it
Bendis.
sounds like.
It's Bendis just bringing his friends from Portland, his knitting
My
circle
neighbors.
or whatever the hell it is.
I'm assuming he brought in Zoe Quinn as well.
I don't think he has any connection with Zoe. I don't
No,
think, I don't even think he
Zoe
knows who the hell
Quinn
she
was a
is.
hate hire because she was a big
Oh.
Gamergate enemy, so they brought her in.
Yeah, they went out.
Yeah.
They went out and found who can we piss off the fans with the most.
She was a hate hire.
My
Yeah.
understanding with her was I forget his name, but the chief
Andy
editor
Curry?
of Vertigo,
Andy Curry.
Andy Curry. That was his doing.
What's funny about Zoe Quinn is when Goddess Mode was announced. It's the first comic I've ever seen that I had people come in asking to buy as a hate buy. They're like, I want that book. I want that. Why do you want that? I want that fucking book. You book good.
Jesus.
Fucking book. They're like, okay, all right, okay. I've got
Well,
you
I
down
see the
for-
book.
You want a cover A, cover B?
Put the
I
knife
don't
down.
fucking care. I don't fucking care. I want that goddamn book. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll get you the book. I get the books in. Like a dozen of them, just hate buys. And the people come in, they come in. Like, you got it? Yeah, I got it. It's right here. And so kind of stand back, hand it to them, slide it across the counter. And they're like, oh yeah, I got you now. I got you. Had one guy just
Out
rip,
in their
had one
mouth,
guy
rip it
just
right
rip
there
it
on
up
the
on the
counter.
spot. Yeah, rip it up right there on the spot. He's like, fuck that bitch. Okay, all right, dude. You need a timeout. You need to go get some Cocoa Puffs. You need a timeout.
Why are
Well,
you
I
just taking
will-
$5 bill and light it on fire? What the
I
fuck?
will say though, I can kind of understand that customer sentiment if he's a gamer skater, because what she did to instigate Gamersgate over there, and some of the things makes a lot of these comics pros look just like paltry in comparison.
Oh yeah.
So I can
yeah.
see, some of these gamers out there, they just and it's appalling kind of what's going on over there.
Well, I remember some people were having pools to see how many guys she slept with to get a DC. I mean, it was 5 guys to get her at one game up. I mean, a DC, holy shit! Oh no!
Well, it's not just the 5 guys; it's the fries too. So and
the fries,
and the fries with it. So
that was really confusing for me because the 5 guys and fries just opened up and were in my town. So when that was going down, so I kept seeing it in the news, like, what's going on? Who's Zoe? Does she own it? I didn't know. It's so funny. Years back, right. Just got 5 guys and fries. So I'm just getting the references. Like what? That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I missed 5 guys here. So, getting back to Bendis, they just did the June solicitations for DC and his event that we knew was coming. Leviathan's happening. My assumption is, of course, it's going to involve Superman. It's going to involve Batman. It's definitely going to involve the rest of the Bat Family books, and as well as the Silencer, which was just announced to be canceled in June as well.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, sorry if you didn't know that just came out. It was really bad news. It's one of the better series to come out of the New Age of Heroes. So
what's survived the New Age of Heroes?
The Terrifics.
Terrifics is still around. Okay.
It has
new writers anyways.
Yeah.
So no new characters survived.
Yeah.
Even Damage is gone.
Damage is gone.
Yeah, Damage. I like Damage.
Damage is excellent, actually.
Yeah, it was.
So no new characters survived.
No. I think the Silencer will survive. Like I said, she will be in Leviathan, and I think they'll use her because she's actually a good character, but her series definitely didn't make it. Pele, as a retailer, what do you expect the interest to be in a Leviathan series headed up by Brian Michael Bendis?
I've not heard a word as far as customers are concerned. I'm probably not going to order it because I have no, I'm not seeing any interest. Bendis at one time was a draw, but now, people just don't give a shit. So, I'm probably not even going to order it. So unless somebody comes in and asks for it specifically for their pull, then no, it won't even be in my shop.
I'm confused. Is this a series? I thought this was just a crossover event.
It's event.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I thought a series and then having the. I thought they were having a supporting mini series and having the event.
I honestly don't know. I'm sure. I'm just going to continue to
consuming all the regular lines. Like I said, Superman, Batman, Nightwing, Red Hood.
Yeah, I'll just be ordering regular. I'll just be ordering irregular amounts. I've not had anybody. Suggest to me that they want specifically some titles just because of that. So, I thought there was going to be.
I'm gonna skip it.
My bad.
It's got Bendis' name on it. Ugh.
I was just going to say, as a consumer, I'm going to kind of go along with that. I'm just looking to buy whatever books I already buy, like Detective Comics. I buy Batman.
Right.
I
you might need
unfortunately
it for the channel, though, right?
What's that?
You might need it for the channel because Heroes in Crisis will be over by then. You'll need a new.
Oh, but dude, I'm looking forward to that being. I'm there. You know what? If I could tell DC one thing, it would be stop freaking making the miniseries. It is killing my budget. Like, just because as a consumer, you walk in and go, "Oh, what's this new miniseries like they're doing? Oh, Batman Who Laughs. Oh, I could buy a few issues of that." And then the next thing you know, you're like, I'm buying Heroes in Crisis. I'm buying Batman Who Laughs. I got Doomsday Clock running for the next couple of years. I got
can't go stream without shitting on Doomsday Clock.
I only say that in jest. I'm cool with Doomsday Clock, but
I'll tell you what,
everyone is.
It's fun to pick on. It's fun to pick on.
But boy, but I don't. When an issue finally does come out, it sells like hell.
Yeah,
and I'm fine with it. But come on, I mean, it's pot shots.
2025 is going to be a good year.
My point is, I'm buying not Mr. Miracle. I'm buying Martian Manhunter. I'm buying Freedom Fighters. It's just like every time the Super Sons, half of my pull list is darn miniseries that I'm just like, please be over, because it's twice as big as I want to be because you feel like it's easy to jump on. You're like, I can jump on this. It's only 6 issues. And then,
How
but
is
the next
Super
thing you
Sons
know,
not
you've
screwed?
added a bunch to your list, and you're just like, oh, I
How
don't
is
want to
Super
do that.
Sons not screwed now? Because you've got Clark,
Oh,
who's like looks like he's 25 now. What is Clark, like 24 or 25? I mean, Clark's son.
I think he's supposed to be
Like,
17.
Oh, yeah, right. And he looks like he's in his mid 20s, and you've got Damian Wayne over here. Still looks like he's 7.
Mhm.
All
Drawing
right.
like a 7 or 8
Rest
year
in
old.
peace.
well, it's partly because of.
Now, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's probably because Ivan Rice just isn't really good at drawing youth. But go ahead.
No, he's like, you got a full grown man running around with a little boy. So, somebody's gonna call the police.
Well, the
But,
police,
I
the
just
police
assumed they're
did
going to
show
push
up.
the Superman Prime thing. I thought that's what they're going to do.
The police did show
Oh.
up in Superman 7, and then they saw
Oh,
that
yeah.
little Superman son was in trouble, and then they walked away like good DC heroes. And he's like,
Oh.
I need your help. I need to
Oh,
get back
yeah.
to Earth. And they're like, oh, you're with Grandpa? We'll see it. We don't want to mess with him. Bye. And you're just like, what? What is the dumbest thing? The Green Lantern Corps just left him to rot.
That's what the
That was-
GL Corps does, right? Just
That was
no-
covered in issue 9, right, Ash?
I believe that was issue 7.
No,
If I
no.
remember correct.
What he was doing while he was gone, I guess his grandpa lost him.
Oh no, that was 8. Issue 8, right?
And
Did he lose him at
in a
the?
volcano.
Did he just lose him at the amusement park? Did he
Yeah,
have to
he-
find him at like
he
guest
ran-
services?
No. He didn't. Grandpa didn't lose. Like so, yeah. I think Bendis is just pulling things out of his ass as he goes. He's reading this book because none of it makes sense. And then the kid's like, my grandpa's crazy. I need to escape and go home. So he enlists the aid of the Green Lantern Corps, and then he's like telling him like, hey, can you help me? And then Grandpa shows up. And they're like, hey, Jor-El, we're just talking to your kid here and telling him how much we admire you. Okay, we'll be out of here now. Like he's some sort of gangster, right? That they don't want to mess with. And you're just like, what? This is the Green Lantern Corps. Like they would. It is. And then he does get away, and then he gets away only to fall into the hands of the crime
Ultraman?
syndicate. The Ultraman and the crime. Yeah.
Mhm.
And he's like being tortured on like a volcano or something weird.
Yeah, Ultraman throws him into a volcano, this little island rock piece in the middle of an active volcano, which doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. And since there's no sun, Superboy can't fly, so he's just sort of like, I can't climb out. But then after like a couple of weeks, or actually they don't even explain how much time, there's a scene where
It's years.
Clark actually asks him, how long were you there? But then there's never an answer. So it could be weeks, months, year. We don't know. But then eventually Superboy says, I got an idea. And he makes the volcano erupt so he can blow him out. And I'm like, wait a second. You don't have any powers.
Yeah,
How did you
it's-
On
survive
top of that, you've been there for a long time. So now you're even weaker than but now you're able to make the volcano explode
Just
and
turn
you're
your
able to
brain off
survive
and
it.
enjoy.
Like,
Just turn your brain off. Yep.
it's one of those things. It's exactly right. As you're
Yep.
reading it, as I was reading it, I was actually okay. Like I was like, oh, okay, because it just flows. He's got this, what I call baffling you with bullshit, is what Bendis is a master of. He just writes very eloquently, and you're just like, oh, okay, I'm going, okay, it's all great. And then after you're done, you're like, what? Your mind starts putting everything together, and you're like, this is nonsense. And it's like once you see past that curtain, which is my moment with Man of Steel #6. Once you see past that, you can never go back. Like you'll always see Bendis for what he is. And every time I see people, I have a couple of people that follow me on Twitter. There's a couple like a YouTube viewer that I'm friends with and whatever. And I've seen that point where they're at Bendis and they're like, oh, I like Bendis. And now they're red pilled and they're like, oh, I see what you mean finally. And you can't go back.
They were
So-
at that. Wow,
Sad but
Bendis has
true.
a lot of fun ideas stage, and it slowly turns into nothing.
So also in that issue, every time Ultraman shows up, like Jonathan Kent starts like mind messing with him and making him cry. So he flies away
Yeah.
and he can't come back for like weeks at a time because he's emotionally broken by Jonathan Kent. It's the weirdest stuff. Like I don't get any of it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's yeah.
Crying. What is this? Heroes in Crisis? Fuck this.
Oh God, don't. Well, I have PTSD over that. Oh no.
Why are all of
last
them?
week's show? Ugh.
Why are all of them gigantic pussies now? The
I don't know,
bad
'cause
guys,
who's writing them?
the bad guys, the good guys. Jesus Christ, change your tampon.
Did you guys not see that post that I'm King made? He's like, I guess I'm writing shitty today. I guess tomorrow's a good day to wake up and write more shittily. I'm like, well, the day ends in Y. What do you do,
Yeah, unless it's a female villain, they're all just everybody's pussified. Everybody's just a giant,
And if you're a
tear
female villain, your evilness is justified. You have some kind of backstory.
sweat. Absolutely, because
You're not just some stupid crazy cunt. You were abused.
apparition.
I can't stand villains these days. Like, why can't a bad person just be bad?
Yeah,
Well, like I said, it depends on who's writing. Because I could point out some comics. As much as we can bitch about DC all day, I can point out a lot of comics at DC where you're like, oh, they're doing this right, and there's still good stuff out there.
absolutely. But so like the doctor made me read a bunch of X-Men books, and I'm still working on it. But I remember reading they were showing the origin of Arcade. And I was like, this is perfect. His daddy cut him off. He murdered him, stole all his money, and just started murdering people with like
Amusement
rights.
parks.
That's a great villain. Why can't we get anything good like Arcade anymore?
Back it
Yeah.
up. What books are these?
Uncanny X-Men. I think it's like it's in the 120s, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Sounds kind of cool. Wait, I think I might have read that one. Yeah, they're all in a big pinball machine.
Yeah, murder.
Yes.
That was
Murder
crazy
World.
cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
Murder
yeah.
World.
Yeah.
That was the arc that, if I'm remembering right, it's like the early 200s. Is that right?
No, it was the
No,
early 100s.
Oh, the early
Like
even
right
further
after
back.
Dark
I
Phoenix.
think it starts at 124. Yeah, I believe
Okay.
125.
Okay, I'm thinking of a different arc where in the early 200s it was where I
Yeah,
fell
back-
in love with
This was
Nightcrawler.
back when the villains were like legitimate psychopaths who you were supposed to dislike.
Yeah, there's nothing redeeming
I
about
like
Arcade
disliking
whatsoever. Like,
That's
he's
what I
just
say
a-
to the lot of writers. They need to try to make these villains likable. No. I like them because I don't like them. That makes sense. Like, I like them because they're bad people. Like, oh, cool. Don't
Well,
make 'em-
someone once said, and I wish I knew who to give credit to, but I was listening to someone talk about villains, and they said the stronger the villain, the stronger the hero. So when you write comics, you want to make your villain as cool, like not cool and like he's hip, but like cool as in you hate him and he's a bastard. And the better that the villain is, the better your heroes end up being, because that's their
Overcoming it, right?
nemesis. Yeah, when you make your
Yeah.
hero or your villains just a bunch of saps and morons and stuff, then your heroes look like that. And I was like, that's so profound. Like that's so obvious, but I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, you shouldn't be like relating to the villain. Be like, oh man, he's got a real good point here.
I too hate paying taxes.
That's part of what made Batman so absolutely amazing is the caliber of his villains. Not the
He's got
power
good
of them, but
rogues.
just the caliber of them. He had a villains row that was just phenomenal. And
Yeah.
they made him a bigger hero.
And
Yeah.
most of them were just plain psychopaths.
Right. Two-Face, Joker.
Yeah, I mean,
Penguin.
they might have a
They're
little bit of a
psychopaths.
tragic backstory, but
A
they're
little bit.
just mostly psychopaths. And
Well,
that's
they kind
fine.
of got wrote that way, like as modern comics started evolving,
Yeah.
and his rogue gallery was a bunch of cartoonish villains. Is like, this doesn't really work as much anymore unless we make them into psychopaths, and then it's like it all worked out right. But
Yeah.
going back to
they're much more
X-Men, X-Men's
campy
got
in
a great
60s.
gallery too.
In the 60s, they're much more campy. They're not nearly as evil, but a great villain. Like if you look at Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, he's not actually that interesting. But Darth Vader
Hold your
is fucking
tongue.
amazing. That's great. Like
Yeah,
Darth
Luke in
Vader-
the original trilogy was my favorite too.
Yeah, he's my favorite hero, but I'm quite certain it's because Vader was so menacing and so evil that
Oh,
when
yeah.
he defeats him,
That's a great example of what we're talking about.
I see what you're
Yeah.
getting at, Wes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, use that as an example. Compare Vader to Kylo Ren, right?
Oh yeah,
So you've got this whiny guy who's always throwing temper tantrums,
Looks like
and
a
then
cat.
you look at the heroes in comparison. You've got these Mary Sue heroes, and they look all bad, you know. But meanwhile,
Kylo should have left the mask on.
look
Just left
what
that on.
Vader did to elevate the heroism of Luke Skywalker. If
Well,
Luke
it's
Skywalker
being-
if he had to go off against Kylo Ren in the original trilogy, he would not look nearly as awesome as a hero. But the fact is, this dude who stood up to Vader, you're like, holy shit.
Vader's going around just choking everybody, and here's
Yeah.
Luke lifting rocks
Vader-
up. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Vader was kind of almost like a horror villain. He was almost with that stoic, slow movement. He never ran, he never chased. He would just saunter down the hall and be like,
get to you.
yeah, I'm
Right.
coming to kill you and you can't stop
At
me."
my
I'm
leisure.
so badass, I don't need to run after you.
Yes, that
great
kind of-
one-liners that
What was-
anytime he would fuck somebody over, he'd be like, "Apology accepted."
yeah.
Right.
He was like a polite Jason Voorhees. I mean,
I was like, when
kind
anyone
of.
had to give him bad news, they're like, well, I'm getting demoted and you're getting
Yeah,
hired.
I'm
All right.
Yeah, and that made the hero, because he was this unstoppable force, the same way that like a horror villain often is this kind of unstoppable force, and that's what makes him so scary. And that's what they did with Vader, and they just stuck him in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
It's
right now,
cool.
there's no villains in comics right now that I can think could even match that.
No,
They,
no.
don't, they don't give me that same feeling.
Although Joker's
Yeah.
been kind of fucked up by King lately, anyway.
I will say that Batman Beyond Joker is interesting. I'm getting pretty crazy into that story. That's awesome.
That's Jurgens, or is it Tomasi?
Jurgens.
Yeah.
It's Jurgens, yeah.
Mhm.
Fucking just killing the Joker's gang. Oh, what's going on? This is fucking retarded awesome. I loved it. You tried to justify not killing these 5, and it's like, don't ask no questions, man.
It's
Loved it.
amazing what happens when you put a good writer on a book, like pretty much any book. I mean, look what Jurgens is doing with Batman Beyond. Everyone loves it. Like people are having this reaction like you are.
I love it.
know, I look at Venditti on Hawkman, the book that can never sell ever. And I mean, it's not that it's selling right now, but I mean, what he's doing on Hawkman is unbelievable.
Mm.
And
is
it's
good.
like, why, what happened to the days when I was a comic, when I came into comics and was a big fan, was the mid 80s to mid 90s. The deal was you took your best talent and you put them on the best books. And it multiplied, you know. It's like X-Men had Chris Claremont, like, and they always made sure that they put the best artist at Marvel on X-Men because that book sold, and they just amplified it by putting the best talent on it and kept it going.
Yeah.
DC needs to do that. They need to have their best guy on Superman, their best guy on Batman. Their middling talent needs to be right. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, now that I become a Hawkman fan, those need to be the growth books. Those need to be the ones where it's like, you're still not ready for the big leagues. Here, have Hawkman. Here, have, you know, Batman Beyond. And if you get better and you can start gaining a following, and you know, we'll put you on a bigger book. But they're doing the opposite, and it's not. So these guys are languishing on these books that people don't want to buy because the characters aren't as popular. And it is boosting the sales a little bit because there's people like me who are like, I just care about a good book. So if it's good, I'll buy it. But mostly fans want to buy Batman and Superman and X-Men and Spider-Man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You want the big heroes.
Yeah. Back in the day, you used to graduate when you were a creator, you would graduate to that book, that A-list book. Now they figure, well, that'll sell no matter who we put on it. And so they put terrible creators on it, thinking that it's only the title that sells, and it's not. It's the title was created because of talent, but it needs to be sustained with talent.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly it.
and it needs to, and that's one of those titles like X-Men was, like Batman is, like Action is, or Superman. You can pick which one of the Batman books is going to be your flagship for the time being, the same way you can pick which one of the X books will be your flagship. Now granted, Amazing Spider-Man will always be the Spider-Man flagship, but even then they deviated from that a little bit whenever they added the adjectiveless one in the early
McFarlane
90s. Yeah, the
Yeah.
McFarlane era, when they gave Todd his own book to write and draw.
And it was brilliant.
Yeah, and it was. But for the most part, your main titles are going to be your flagships. You need the best talent on those books, and then it literally grabs other books and drags their sales numbers up. All it needs is one crossover, and boom, now you get an extra 5,000, 10,000 people that pick up that one other title for a month or 2 months, and then they decide, I like this, I'm gonna stick with it.
Well, look what X-Men was able to do back in the late 80s when they started releasing all the crossover books.
Yep.
It was before they were like, Marvel was like, we're not going to have 5 X-Men titles. We're just going to have the one. It's our flagship title, but we're going to make X-Force and X this, and in those books they could put mid-level people on and people would still buy them because it was like, oh, it's linked to the X-Men.
Yes.
And they didn't tarnish their main title.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Yeah.
I think, X Factor, it's like when X Factor was launched, X Factor #1 actually outsold the Uncanny X-Men of the same month. So by a considerable margin.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and then for several months after that, it outsold Uncanny X-Men. So
yeah, because people wanted they wanted a little bit of the nostalgia kick of the original team. They also wanted to see what is this, because that was the first time Marvel had done an X spin-off,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. It was like really the first time you could get essentially an X-Men #1.
Yes,
Yeah.
That was the attitude. I remember when that book came out. It was like, oh my God, we're seeing X-Men all over again. And I can get a #1, like,
Yep.
And so, yeah, everyone, if you were an X-Men fan, you were buying multiple X Factor #1s. You're like, I'm getting on the ground floor.
and it's just now out of the dollar bin area. So,
So speaking of a great writer dragging over there, or not dragging, but raising the other properties with him, and we'll get back onto Bendis before we go over to some more DC flops. So he's, to my knowledge, he's the only creator-owner that is getting published by DC with his Jinx World series. And the numbers on that are actually really bad. So in his last, in January, Pearl issue 6 sold 10,000 or just under it. United States versus Murder Inc. Sold about 6,700 copies. Scarlet issue 5 was about 9,600. Cover issue 5 was at 10K, and so basically all of those issues are meeting the threshold that the New Age of Heroes met for cancellation. So
yeah, but they're not going to cancel them.
They're meeting way below that. They canceled Immortal Men at 26,000 units.
yeah.
Okay,
well, the recent stuff, like I believe Silence was right about 9,000. Damage was at 12,000 when it got canceled. So basically, like the 10 to 12 was the one where they kind of all got axed. But Jinx World isn't even meeting those thresholds anymore. But it seems like they actually can't stop. Like it's part of his contract.
That's my understanding. Yeah, my understanding is it's like a fringe benefit.
He had a similar deal a couple contracts ago at Marvel. They literally created the Icon imprint for him so that he could bring powers over from Image and then start other things. And he did a couple of other books too under the Icon imprint. Now they kept it around for other guys like Brew Baker to start Criminal on, and I think Mark Miller did one of his initial run of Miller World books on Icon. I can't remember which one, but yeah. They created an entire imprint essentially for Bendis. And then
Is
I
Icon
think,
even around anymore?
no,
I thought Icon was pre Bendis.
no, it wasn't.
Wasn't
No,
it?
you're thinking of Epic.
Oh, that's way back. But
Yeah, no,
Icon Bendis is
Powers. When Powers got brought over from Image, that was the first Icon book, and it was in
But
about
Bendis
about
came to-
2004.
but Bendis came to
2005.
DC in 2018.
Oh no, I'm talking
He's talking
about
Marvel.
Marvel. I said a couple,
I'm
couple-
confusing the imprints then.
yeah, a couple of contracts ago in Marvel. It was, I think, maybe his second or third exclusive deal, because he just kept re-upping his exclusive with Marvel, because he went exclusive with them in like 2000 or 2001, and I think around 2004 or 2005 is when they launched Icon, basically just to keep him happy.
Why? I guess.
Well,
I don't-
he was.
Yeah.
No, in 2004, 2005, Bendis could sell a book
Always
at
a big deal.
100,000. He could put 70,000 units up just by having his name slapped on the cover.
I think my modern vision of Bendis is disrupting my past vision of him. Because I used to really love that guy, but right now it's like his name makes me cringe.
So Pele,
There's a Bendis filter.
so Pele, DC's announced or Didio has that they're streamlining the DC comics. They're bringing in the number of series that they're releasing, and they're going to focus on quality over quantity. Have they really painted themselves in a corner where they just can't get rid of these 5 books that don't sell whatsoever? So is that going to cost us 5 books that are selling?
I think that it's going to be a little bit of column A, little column B. We're going to see a lot of consolidation as far as as far as the broader range of titles go. But they're going to have to handle this very carefully, because there's some very, very dedicated fans to books that maybe don't sell more than 35,000 issues, but
Titans.
yeah, exactly. But I have customers that love Titans. So it's like they're going to have to really kind of tread lightly there, but it's due. It really is. They have to trim the fat. And it's not as bad as Marvel, of course. Nothing's as bad as Marvel's fat. But Gail Simone aside, we can't.
Ba-dum-bum.
But it's just. I think it's going to be a little bit too little, too late, though. I mean, they should have done this 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, they really should have. I mean, like, when I look at a lot of the DC line, I see a lot of double dipping and triple dipping. I mean, I see the same thing with Marvel, but I at least Marvel's you know what? Never mind. I'm not giving them any.
No, don't give Marvel any
pass.
credit at all.
No. But like, for instance, with like Titans, you should have Titans or Teen Titans or Young Justice, period. Those are your 3 options. Pick one. Don't do all 3.
Exactly. So that's what was actually coming to mind. Hadn't connected it yet, but you can have Titans, Teen Titans, but you can't have Young Justice. What they need to do is just mash Young Justice and Teen Titans together, and then take Titans and put the Outsiders, something like that. And just mash
And
those
for new
groups
readers,
together,
that's kind of
consolidate.
confusing.
Yeah,
It is.
having 3 essentially Justice League Junior books.
I like that.
And I mean,
It's true.
it
true.
is. And it's dumb. It'd be like having the Young Avengers, the Teen Avengers, and the Champions all at once. No.
Oh, and what are the Outlaws doing? Now
Exactly.
that drop the Outlaws, it's like they were going to announce an Outlaws book, and I was like, oh, you will not fucking do that.
Yeah.
Hell no.
and then you're going to have the Outlaws and the Outsiders and
Right.
the
Ugh. I think that's what they're trying to avoid.
all at once. There's too many double, triple dipping onto the same franchise, and it comes back to, once again, it's the same thing. It's the same problem that Marvel has with brand dilution. They just dilute their own brand.
Well, and you got the regular Justice League, you got Justice League Odyssey, you got Justice League Dark.
Yeah,
Again, for new readers, that's really confusing. Like, what do you mean?
It's very confusing.
The same team going, what? What's this about? No, it's all different teams.
Like, how come they're like, how come Wonder Woman's in Justice League Dark and the Justice League? What the hell's going on with that? How? And yeah, they do need to consolidate the.
I'm reading Odyssey. It's really weird to even consider that a Justice League book because it's just.
I
a
know
small
that
little
doesn't
team.
fit. Yeah, it doesn't really
What?
fit with the Justice League.
And they're stuck
moniker.
in space, so they can't. No new team. No, it's dumb to call it Justice League. It's dumb. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and then you've got the Green
I like
Lantern
the book.
thing. It's always confused people. You had Green Lantern, Hal Jordan Green Lantern. You had Green Lanterns. You had, and it was, and everybody's like, so what storyline is Hal Jordan in? None of them. What?
Yeah.
And then they relaunched with Hal Jordan. It doesn't make any sense. But
and then,
and now
additionally,
the Green Lantern
having and then having as many Green Lanterns as they do from the same sector, hell, from the same goddamn planet,
right?
Makes no sense. You got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. You got like 5 active Green Lanterns on Earth,
right?
I have a problem.
And the way they explain that is because of the they explain that is because of the what's the word I'm looking for?
Meta-human population.
Well, but this the
somehow Earth is like
convergence,
the central point.
The convergence, because of the convergence area. It's a convergence point where you have all the worlds kind of bleeding over and everything like that. So, well, we need this because of the convergence, but it doesn't make any sense for a new reader. It's like, what the
cool
hell
to
is
see an
this?
alien species from Chona 814 be a lantern too. Just saying.
One of the problems I have. So for those of you who don't know, I was a massive Marvel fanboy, massively prejudiced against DC for all my years except recently. So now I'm kind of a DC noob, but I'm kind of exploring comics all over again and learning about the ways of DC. And I got to say, first of all, that Green Lantern is probably one of the hardest titles to acclimate to that I've ever seen. Like, I thought X-Men in back in the days was tough, but no, Green Lantern is ridiculous. But one of the problems I'm having as a fan and as a buyer and everything is this constant rebooting, resetting. It's like, I got into Green Lantern, I was in DC, I'm like, great. I hear all these great things about Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps. That's going to be one of the titles I buy. And then a few months later, we're canceling it. All right, well, I'm going to jump on Green Lanterns then, because that's what I'm like, we're canceling it. We're just going to have Green Lantern. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll buy this. And then now I'm expecting it to get to like 12 or 15 issues and Morrison to get tired and move on. And they'll be like, well, canceling it. And we're moving. Like, I'm tired of this.
Got to hit that 12 issues to get those trades out. Got to at least get that 12 issues.
I'm so tired of this as a
8.
consumer of starting over. Look, you put a new person on the book, you just continue the numbers. Just continue the numbers.
I'm for that.
That's how for 70 years.
Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps could have just after that last issue, was it 53 or something?
It was 50.
50?
Yeah, Green Lantern stopped at 57.
Okay, I'm confused. Well, anyways, after that last issue, they could have just changed the head title to Green Lantern.
What do you think causes that? Is that just like a writer's ego thing? Grant shows up.
No,
it's
failure at the publisher level, because look, they didn't reboot Red Hood when the Outlaws left, right? It was the Outlaws are gone, and now it's just Red Hood. Red Hood. They called it Red Hood Outlaw, right? Instead of Red Hood and the Outlaws. But that's the way you should do that.
Well, the only reason they did that is because of the fact that Red Hood and the Outlaws was it was a good seller. It was a stronger title.
Right.
So they're like, well, we're just going to carry this over, and the storyline, the way that it made more sense. But the reason why they keep doing this is because they get to charge more for that number one issue, and they get the hype for the number one issue, and it's just they're milking the few fans that are left.
It's
the
short-term gains
fan
for
base,
long-term losses.
The fan base is compressed so much now as far as new comics buyers, that where it used to be 500,000, now they've got like 125, 150,000. And they've got to get their money from those guys every single chance they get. So it's sad. It really is. Marvel's the worst offender. DC does it too. So it's just, the NPCs are out there screaming that, hey, they always relaunch a title when a new writer comes along. I said, no, they don't. This is absolutely something new. This wasn't done 10 years ago. This is because you're shitty writers. Can't maintain a story going. Can't keep a story going, and the only way that they can make any money whatsoever is to completely reboot the system. And
or in some cases, they just continue the story. Like they'll literally stop the book, put a new number, maybe a new title, and it's like a domino over at Marvel. It's like,
wasn't that what they did with Iceman? They literally canceled it, then remade it again with the same writer.
Well, Iceman got canceled because it didn't sell.
But then they brought it right back with the same writer, didn't they?
Right. That's a similar problem, but for different reasons. Whereas like Domino was like, we're gonna stop Domino, we're gonna reboot it as Hot Shots, and it's the same story continuing from like. It's not like, oh, we got a new writer, we're doing something different, we're shaking things up. No, it's literally, it could be the same book. It's bullshit.
Yeah, you can't even understand what's going on with Hot Shots unless you read the previous Domino issues. So
That's
it's like,
the same
why are
way
these
with
chicks? Who are these chicks? Why are they, what's going on here? Well, I don't understand anything that's going on. Well, you got to go read Domino.
It's the same way with Daredevil. They ended Sewell's run with an accident. They did their Man Without Fear little mini series, and then the new Daredevil with Chip Zdarsky is the exact same story. It's him recovering from the accident.
Yeah,
I thought he was supposed to die.
So did I.
He technically did.
Oh, good Lord.
From just, like it was just a short. It was like one of those situations where time compressed, and he's dead on the table, and he's thinking about all the shit that's gone on in his life, and all.
My goodness.
And
that
then
brings up a whole other can of worms of like, false advertising. It's like, hey, it's gonna be a wedding issue. Just kidding.
Oh, please don't get me started on that. Oh my god. Oh.
Okay, so before we go down that path again, because if we start on the wedding issue, that'll be another 30 minutes.
I know. I was like, no,
we don't need to go down it. I just wanted to point out the false advertising that these companies are doing, and Marvel's even more guilty of it than DC, where it's just like, hey, look, Daredevil's gonna die. He's death of Daredevil. And it's like, oh, he's dead on the table for 8 seconds, or I don't know what happened actually, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, oh, that you're just pulling the rug out from under us. It used to be when a character died, it was like the death of Superman. He's gone for a while, and we're gonna have this huge event. It's gonna have ramifications all across our entire line of comics. That's what I was expecting was going to happen with Daredevil. I was like, oh, geez, who's going to replace Daredevil? They're going to have someone step in his shoes for a couple years. That's how it used to be.
So getting back, we'll finish up the Bendis thing. So the last thing that he's done that we haven't talked about is the relaunch of Wonder Comics, and I think the Doctor mentioned there are 5 Earth Green Lanterns. Well, now there's 6 because Teen Lanterns and Young Justice. Speaking of a returned hero, I believe the original Superboy is back. Maybe it's Superboy Prime, also in Young Justice. The verdict is a little bit more out on that one. There's only been sales figures for one issue of Young Justice. That was 74,000. There's only sales figures for one issue of Naomi, his original character, is at 25,000. And there's no sales figures for Wonder Twins, and I don't believe Guile H for Hero has even come out yet. Ash, I think you've actually read all 3 of those, haven't you?
I have read Naomi and Young Justice, and I've watched enough reviews on Wonder Twins to feel like I've read it. And Dial H, I'm just who the heck's gonna buy a Dial H? That book's dead on arrival. Like
I don't know. The title alone doesn't sound very interesting.
Doesn't
It-
sound interesting.
It's a
no
title
one
that's
wants
never
this book.
sold.
Right?
The title
no,
that's never sold.
it,
So
it
it's
was
pretty.
dumb. It was dumb back in the days, and I think today it's even dumber. And this whole imprint, Wonder Comics imprint, is the most retarded. Forgive me for anyone who's offended by the word retarded. Idea to come out of DC, and you have this idea of New Age of Heroes, which was spawning off of your Metal event, which was a really good event, and it actually added things to DC. It built upon the lore, which is something that can be difficult to do when you have 80 years plus of history, and created some interesting things. You built these new heroes, which is something DC desperately needs because, let's face it, they're pretty incestuous when it comes to hero creation. It's like, we need a new hero. Well, let's make a new version of, pull a card, Green Lantern. Make a new version of, pull a card, oh, new Flash. Like, they keep doing, instead of making new ideas. So it was creative. And these characters were interesting, and you could pick one and say, oh, the Triffics interest me. Oh, Silencer interests me. Oh, okay. Whatever, you pick your poison, and all it needed was some tender loving care to push, and they abandoned it like a couple months in. And then they do this imprint with Wonder Comics, which nobody, if you can't push books like The Silencer, how you expect to push Dial H for Hero? Is anyone at DC sitting there going, oh, you know what? The problem was we just weren't doing books like Wonder Twins. We weren't doing books like Dial H.
Exactly.
Wonder Twins to me
Yep.
is a big joke. I don't want to read that. I just make fun of that show.
You argue
Yeah.
as it had a spoon. Those fans,
What?
and I
You're cutting out, buddy.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought that was
um,
me.
It feels like Ash is cutting out a little bit. So, Pele, you have a story. What's the interest like for the new Wonder Comics? Besides, I imagine Young Justice is kind of high because it has a pretty cool cartoon that it's associated with, by name at
Right.
least. Is
That's
Naomi
about
getting
the only-
traction?
No. It's I've got I do have some younger readers, but it's mostly boomers. 30s, 40s. Young Justice actually surprisingly have a lot of interest there, but that's really about it. That's doesn't really seem like it's going beyond that title.
I
So-
think a lot of the Young Justice interest stems from the fact that it was a decent seller back in the mid to late 90s.
Right. People remembered that series. They remembered, oh, okay. And it really did have a lure as far as, a little bit of a backstory there, a little bit of a history. As far
And
as the
it's
title
also
goes, so.
bringing two characters that have been out for quite a while, Superboy and the younger Flash, Impulse.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
those characters actually have interest on them already.
Am I
So,
doing
yeah,
better?
it's-
Am I still cutting out?
No, you're
Yeah,
better.
sounds better. You're better.
If I
You're better.
if I may and ask for some indulgence to finish my rant here, I feel like I got cut off. Uh,
Go for it, man.
so I can understand Young Justice has this following, as you guys just talked about, and plus it had a successful cartoon that I know plenty of people who aren't even into comics, but they're just into like geek culture and stuff that are like, oh yeah, Young Justice, and I was like, oh okay. So you have an argument at least to bring that book back, even though I disagree bringing it back based on the arguments made earlier about you've already got Teen Titans and Titans, you got to pick one. But Wonder Twins, Dial H, Naomi, it's not even a superhero name. What it's just a girl named Naomi. Like who?
Yep.
Right? Like this is what you killed New Age of Heroes for? Like you got to build comics the way that you've been doing it. And you have to also understand that it takes years to build popularity, not just a couple months. You can't just launch a title and expect everyone to just jump on it like gangbusters, especially in a market like today where popular books, mainstream heroes sell 30,000. X-Men sells 30,000 units. Oh, sorry, it ships 30,000 units.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's okay. So that's an atrocity as it is, but their fan base is so small. Even back in the day when X-Men used to sell 500,000, 700,000 copies of a book, Marvel was like, all right, we're going to test the waters with this 4-issue miniseries. Oh, it's successful. Okay. Put on the docket 2 years from now, we're going to release Punisher as a mainstream, like they took their time. They fostered the growth. They understood. They couldn't just throw random book out and everyone's going to be like, yay. And it's going to become this iconic brand. You had to build it. It's taken all this time for Batman to be what Batman is. I can remember a time, and I'm sure Doc can and other people on the panel, where Batman was just like, whatever, Batman,
Yeah.
It's hard to think of today, but that's what it was. But it took DC a while, and they built this character, and once they did get it to that point, they fostered it. They made some mistakes along the way, but for the most part, they didn't just get there by just randomly throwing stuff out. And I don't know. I just don't know what they're thinking on this, and I cannot wait for this imprint to die fast enough. It is just the most moronic idea. I think people need to get fired over this. It's the dumbest thing. It's so stupid.
Well, they've been, both publishers have been doing this for a while now, where they introduce a character. They've already decided it's going to be popular before they do kind of a backdoor pilot by, introducing them in a existing title. They did it with Kamala. They did it with Riri. They did it with, I think the most obvious giant failure of them was Mosaic. Does anybody remember that? From a couple of years ago, they introduced it in one of the, whenever they tried to do like 5 Inhumans titles, and basically it was one of the characters from NYX, except for an Inhuman this time. Same power set, same character concept, where he just jumped body to body, and they introduced him 1 month. 2 months later, he had his own solo title launch, and it flopped so fucking hard. I'm still finding them in the quarter bins. It was a giant failure. They tried to make him central to that Inhumans versus X-Men event. That failed. They tried to do it with that vomit guy too. In what was it? In Secret Empire. The guy that would randomly puke. They tried to do it with that Ulysses character. They decide that something is going to be popular before it ever sees audience reaction. And then they've already planned a solo title for it. They did it with that stupid Hulk Vereen too. That Weapon H.
Weapon H, yeah.
They do it constantly.
Which
DC
coincidentally, it did sell well.
Weapon H,
Hulk Vereens.
Well. What number is it on?
It's canceled.
Yeah, but
Weapon H is
well.
canceled.
So it didn't.
No,
Hulk
Hulk
Vereen.
Hulk Marines is a little miniseries.
Oh, it's a mini.
Yeah.
I was
That's
gonna
what I'm
say
saying, but it did sell well.
But it was only 3 issues, and I think everybody wanted to see how they killed this abomination.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, though, as I hear, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone on the panel, but I hear all the time people like, "Well, this sold really great," and it's like, yeah, it's number 1. When people are like, "Well, Amazing Spider-Man #1 outsold Batman this month," it's like, yeah, it was Amazing Spider-Man #1, and then guess what? Now it's back to selling, 20,000 units less than Batman, because that's the real numbers. When you reboot something to a #1, that's not a real sales number. That's artificially inflated. People chasing the #1s, chasing all the variants.
Do people really think
know.
those are going to be worth anything? I mean, didn't the '90s prove that
Some
#1s
do.
don't really sell that well?
People
Some
have
do.
short memories. People
Like, I
have
bet I
short
bought
memories.
X-Men #1 for $5.
The other thing is it's not just collectability. Sometimes it's a jumping on point. I mean, that's what the publishers think, right? That if we release this as a number one, we're going to get the collectors who want to buy all the number ones. But then we're also going to get the people who are like, I don't want to jump in on Spider-Man at issue 799, but I will jump on Spider-Man at issue 1 because it's, a jumping on point. And
they don't see that it's also a big jumping off point.
You are 100% correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been what they're doing, because I said this a year and a half ago. David Gabriel, Tom Brevoort, they're the problems, at least when it comes to Marvel. DC hasn't been as big of a problem with this, but they treat comic series like they're television shows. Mm-hmm. And with seasons, each new number one is a season premiere. What they don't realize is that and I understand theoretically this idea, they just never realize the problem with season premieres. Season premieres have big opening numbers, but then the new normal, whatever they on episode 12, mm-hmm. They're always lower than on season 3 episode 12, it is always lower viewership than season 2 episode 12 and season 1 episode 12.
Yep.
It is a law of diminishing returns, and TV shows are replaceable. You can just throw one random procedural cop show out whenever it runs out of, when either the actors want too much money, don't want to work as much, or the ratings go down. They just throw out one generic show and just replace it with a different sitcom or some other generic procedural
almost
cop
exactly
show.
Like making a new number one. Wow.
Exactly. Yep. And but they have to replace it with wholly new characters.
It's funny you mention that, because I was watching Monk and got really bored with it, and everyone told me to watch Psych, and I'm not as bored with it, but I'm starting to get bored with it again.
Exactly.
And they're pretty similar. They're pretty similar, a little different, but pretty similar shows. It's pretty funny you mentioned that.
But so what happens is, though, but your comic characters, they have 50 years, 70 years of history. They've been worked and reworked enough so that they can fit any situation. They are not replaceable. They're designed to be evergreen. Mm-hmm. And television shows are not, with the exception of The Simpsons and fucking MASH and Cheers. They're not evergreen. Mm-hmm.
Don't forget WWE.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you still swap out pro wrestlers every few years, and it cycles down. It's kind of like Saturday Night Live. Every so often they have the bad cast mm-hmm. that eventually maybe gets good, and then just when they get good, they all leave for movies and other TV shows, and then they get a new cast almost all at once, and then it sucks for 3 years. And
I don't know anyone still watches SNL.
But it's the same. But that's because it's in a suck phase right now.
Oh, is it?
It's in a TDS phase.
Yeah. And but so you have, your TV shows are not designed to be evergreen. Nobody expects the same characters. Nobody expects a Wolverine out of television.
Right.
You don't expect a Batman out of television. Hell, even superhero TV shows eventually wear out. You're seeing
Actors
it with
age.
Between actors aging, they wanting too much money, or they just run out of plot lines for the television audience. It's not that way for comics audiences. We are okay with essentially reading variations on the same story over and over and over again for decades.
In fact, we want to. I mean, that's one of the allure of comics.
Yes, exactly. And there's no television shows that are evergreen. They all wear out. They're designed to wear out. Comic series, when you treat them like television shows, cause the same burnout over time, and it's what's driving the numbers, the average sales. Once you finally get to figuring out what your quote unquote new normal is, because the launch numbers we all know that they're bullshit. Number one, nobody cares what the sales numbers are for number one. We care what the sales numbers are for 14.
Right.
And that it's same as a television show. We care what it's going to average out at once the new season or new relaunch allure wears off.
Let me add one thing to that though too. I think you nailed it on the head. And one of the things that the publishers aren't considering, that you can't treat comics that way because someone's echoing, by the way. You can't treat comics that way because comics you have to pay for. Television has always been subsidized by advertising and things like this. So you can treat it as a disposable medium. It's real easy to say, yeah, I'm bored with CSI. I'm going to move on to some other show. You didn't invest in it. Other than your time. But comics fans, you're asking them to spend $4 or $5 every issue on these books. Even if you're a person who's like, I've cut the cord and I just buy my shows, you're still probably paying $1.99 an episode for TV. That's still way cheaper than comics. So fandom, they not just invest their time, they don't just invest their interest and emotions, they invest their money, and they want a return on this investment. And some of them want a return on the collectability aspect. You got the speculators, and some of them want a return on, look, I've been buying this series for 50 issues. Give me my 51st issue. Give me my 52nd. Quit stopping these things. Treat it with respect. Understand who your customers are, and quit trying to cater to a fan base that's just non-existent.
Okay, so this is a good segue for me. So I think we've hammered Bendis pretty good, and I think we all agree that he is a flop for DC Comics at this point. So another big flop has been the relaunch of Vertigo, which has a long history of excellence in the industry with some of the most cutting edge and innovative storylines and characters. And if you look at Vertigo, it's a tale of two Vertigos right now. You have classic Vertigo, more associated with Neil Gaiman. Book of Magic selling 15,000, The Dreaming 17,000, House of Whispers 12,500, Lucifer's at about 14,500 right now. Then we go down to Woke Vertigo. Border Town, last issue in December, 7,600. Goddess Mode, issue 1, 8,000. American Carnage, with a great writer in Brian Hill, 6,500. Hex Wives, 7,200. Second Coming, canceled before it even published. And then not only do we have the shitty sales, we have all the controversies. Border Town writer Eric Esquivel's sexual abuse scandal, which caused the cancellation of the story. We have Spider-Gwen creator Robbie Rodriguez showing his anus on Twitter to EVS. He's still illustrating Goddess Mode, by the way. Goddess Mode writer Zoe Quinn scanned backers out of $85,000 on Kickstarter. We've got Rob Sheridan, writer of High Level, talking trash to comic customers 24/7 on day one, despite never writing a comic before in his life. And then we have also Vertigo head writer, or the Vertigo head, Andy Corey, also talks a massive amounts of shit to customers. How does he still have a job? What do you think, Jeremy?
This is just hurtful, man. All I can think about is Constantine and Swamp Thing, all these great characters, and you're telling me some pretty horrific stories now, and I'm really sad. You're making me really depressed right now.
Yeah, he's basically damaged the line beyond recognition.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not picking up any Vertigo books right now. I know that. Not even the Neil Gaiman ones.
Yeah, Vertigo has been damaged. The brand has been damaged, I think, beyond repair. People now are going to associate it with, that's the SJW title. That's the SJW label.
Oof. Prove you're not racist. Like with 3.
Yeah, this was the racist title. It was the most racist. I mean, that and American Carnage are the two most racist. Well, unless you count Actually, I take that back because now you
Yeah,
have
what's the
White
most racist?
coming out. You have White coming out, which is like the sequel to Black.
Is that really
By-
coming
Yeah,
out?
that's
Vertigo?
Black Mask.
No, it's Black Mask.
That's
That's not
Albany,
coming out
right?
Vertigo though, right?
But
Yeah.
it's no.
No,
But
okay.
anyway, you've got the title the what's so bad is it was such an incredible label, and just to be flushed down the toilet.
Seems like it's been
Yeah.
sacrificed on the altar of wokeness.
That's so
Yeah.
sad. 'Cause I just in my back of my head, I'm thinking about all these great books, and ouch, you're hurting me, guys. This hurts.
Yeah, it's been
Oof.
sacrificed to the gods of social justice now.
Like I can't believe Border Town was on that. That was such a. Ugh.
Well, have you
I'll
read
never
American
forget that.
Carnage?
No, because I think Hill's kind of a TV writer, so I don't read his stuff no more.
I like Hill. I think he's pretty good. I got about, I don't know, maybe 8 pages in, and like there's a quote where an FBI agent's talking to like another one, and they're like, "Well, is he straight MAGA or is he KKK MAGA?" As if
It
there's
said
like
MAGA.
a big conjunction between the two. That if you're MAGA, there's a good chance you could be KKK MAGA as well. Like,
Yeah, it was,
Take that fork in the road. Don't go KKK MAGA. Oh
I was
boy,
like, what
that
is
one's
this
got white
horseshit?
hoods. Go that way.
Yeah. So I look at the whole that particular book as sort of that was like hands free for Brian Hill. I've never thought that Brian Hill shared my politics or my views or whatever, but I've always respected the guy because he's been a professional. He's like, look, my politics don't matter. I'm here to write Batman, and I'm here to write Batman correctly, and that's what I'm gonna do. And he does it. But when he has his own book and he's in Vertigo, which you guys just nailed it. It's basically the woke imprint. He's now able to say, I want to write something that's me. And so I just skipped American Carnage altogether because I kind of saw that coming. And I'm okay. I'm very okay with Vertigo. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that it's easy to pick on and point as the failures. And yes, it's a super failure and it's bad for DC because failure's never good except for the lessons you learn. But I'm okay because it's sort of the corral that DC's been like, oh, we're gonna have our woke stuff, but instead of like forcing it on you in Batman and Superman, we're gonna put it over here on the side where everyone like us can go, cool, let's avoid it. We won't buy our Vertigo books. I know it's sad for all the Sandman fans and Preacher fans and from the old days and stuff, but that's been gone for a while anyway. It's not like it killed any of those things.
I like how the
So-
90s and early 2000s, Edgy was smoking in your book and swearing and drinking, and now Edgy is just like, showing your butthole and Zoe Quinn's fucking controversy. This is what Edgy is now. That's what Vertigo is.
I wish they didn't use the Vertigo name because
I want to go back to
mean something.
smoking and drinking. Let's go back to that.
But I mean, I look at really Vertigo is just, they could have just called it woke comics. They could have called it anything. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with these comics existing. I just don't want these comics. I don't want these things taking over what was previously established. Leave the previously established stuff the way that it is. And if you want to bring in,
Border Town's not going to impact anything.
yeah, if you want to make Border Town, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just don't make Superman Border Town. Like
Goddess mode, no one's going to care about that.
Yeah.
Even 5 years from now, like no one's
I'm gonna sit there and laugh as the free market gives you a
Goddess
big
mode. Was that a cheat code? What's that? Fuck.
well, it was so funny, but like I said, you had all the hate buyers. How many people actually bought it and read it? That's what I want to know. How many, aside from Zach and Diversity in Comics, how many people? How many people actually bought the book and read it? Because you've got probably about 3,000 or 4,000 NPC SJWs who bought the book just to kind of wave it around and say, "Oh, I bought the comic," and then you've got the people that bought it just to tear it up and piss on it or whatever. And then, but aside from a few reviewers, there couldn't have been more than 100 people that actually read that book.
I mean, I can check my LCS, but I remember seeing it on the shelf and no one was grabbing it. No one was picking it up. A lot of people there, no one was grabbing Goddess mode. It's hard to say. I can go look.
Well, I'm just curious. No. I'm not even talking about how many people bought it. I'm talking about how many people read it. Is what I'm wondering. These SGW comics are not meant to be read. They're just meant to be bought.
I bet a
Yeah.
ton got read on readcomicsonline.com.
Maybe.
Oh,
The best site for any SJW if you want to read comics. It's free online.
But I think a lot of the sales were so people could roast the shit out of the book on their channels and get some views up. Because people will hate watch YouTube for stuff that they know that they're going to hate to begin with.
right.
So I watched Jay Ashiro's Adventures in Awful with Kat Roka, where they did on Goddess Mode. It was worse than I thought by a lot. Like it was complete trash. And Border Town ended up being way worse. I didn't realize it was going to be that racist. But,
Terrible.
yeah.
Who allows that one? And I always go back to that panel when he sat there and he was trying to justify how he wasn't racist. Like, well, what are we doing here? What the fuck?
Well,
Who allowed this?
it's become evident at this point, actually, now in hindsight. At first, I just thought it was DC saying, we're gonna go with the times. SJWs are a big part of comics. They got the books. They're clamoring for different things, and we're gonna try some stuff. And I didn't really fault them. I was like, oh, you want to make a woke imprint? Okay, fine. But in hindsight, I keep forgetting this stupid editor's name. It's becoming evident that
Danny Corey,
yeah, this imprint isn't just a woke imprint. This is a just it's God, I'm tongue tied. It's a social agenda propaganda imprint. And I know that seems like the same thing, but it's beyond just like, hey, we're going to try to be woke. We're going to try to do what like X-Men's doing and talk about, racism and things like it's literally to hammer down just white people are bad, Trump supporters are Nazis. It is pure.
Well, not all Trump supporters, the MAGA KKK MAGAs, not the MAGA. Prime.
Yeah. You gotta.
Well, no, those are the
Remember that.
SS version of the.
SS
Anyways,
version.
Every single book down to the Brian Hill book is anti-white racist. It's at some point they even changed Goddess Mode's skin color. The character in Goddess Mode, they changed her skin color, so she's
What
not
do you mean?
white.
Like from issue 1 to 2, they changed their color.
orange.
I think in issue 3, if I was following correct, one of the issues.
Any justification for that, or they just do it?
It just randomly happened. Like
didn't say anything in the story, just different skin tone, guys.
just the colorist was like, just okay, make her darker.
Turn that contrast down just a little bit.
Oh my goodness, it is, but it's become evident. Like I thought at first, like I didn't understand American Carnage. I was like, well, at least there's like kind of one legit title going to be in this lineup, but it's not. Even Brian Hill's title, it's like I kind of feel like the editor was qualifying. Well, Brian, what's this book going to be about? Oh, it's going to be about anti-white stuff. Oh, okay, well then you can have it in our. I mean, every single thing was meant to offend. I mean, look at this the Jesus, the Second Coming book. I mean, how could you even get past the drawing board on approval and not immediately go, oh my God, everyone is going to be offended? DC knew. They knew this was going to be highly offensive, and they threw it out there anyway. It wasn't like a mistake, like, ooh, shit. Sorry, guys. We didn't realize that we were going to cause all this problem. Like the Batwang thing, that controversy, that was like an accident. They didn't realize the uproar, right? Okay, fair enough. I can get it. You threw it out there. You thought a mature label, people could handle it. People freaked out. But the Jesus thing, come on. That was like literally like, how can we piss our fan base off? I know. Let's compare Superman to Jesus. And let's oh my God, it was just.
I'd be okay with that book, but they're never gonna do the opposing one. Like, where's the Muhammad book? You will not touch that. That's what makes me mad.
No,
it wasn't a legitimate. It was never a legitimate idea though of putting like Jesus and Superman. It was meant to be a mockery, and that was
it's a satire. I personally think
that's what it is.
I wanted them to publish it so it could die from low sales like it deserved to, and DC could eat their
But
crow.
Pace is still
Like,
bringing it out, right? I thought he was just changing publishers.
yeah, it's going to Ahoy Comics where it should have been at the first place, but it's not.
Can't
a
wait.
title like
Everyone
that
knows.
doesn't warrant being published by DC.
Right.
So I wish they just would have done it, but I
don't
guarantee you
have
the
a problem.
pre-sales were embarrassing.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have
I'm
a
glad
problem
that
with
they
it
didn't.
existing. I don't have a problem with I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with the comic existing. You know, I guess you could say culturally Christian, not really deeply religious or anything, but
Probably in the
That's-
same
it's
boat.
fine.
Man.
it's absolutely fine. Somebody wants to publish something like this. I mean, Christianity has been a target for centuries,
Mhm.
but especially lately, it's been a huge target. You know, and that's
Past
fine.
6 years, big time. Yeah.
That's fine. You know, I appreciate free speech and people's free expression, but at the same time, that's not a DC mainstream title. You know, I didn't understand what was their purpose in this. They're just trying to get more hate
It's
sellers.
this
you know,
editor.
more
I
hate
think about
sales.
it. Look in hindsight. This editor has got a social agenda, and he's using DC
Of course,
to push his
But-
personal agenda, and that's the failure of the publishers. These publishers need to stop letting individuals use the company to push their personal agendas. That's not why DC exists.
Absolutely.
That's the
And,
same- but that's the same with Marvel too. I mean, it's
Oh,
it's
yes.
been both of them the whole time.
Oh no, I only ignored Marvel because they're dead. Like I always say this about DC because DC is actually still doing good things. The ship is still afloat. You know, like there's salvation to be found at DC. If my omission of Marvel is not to excuse them, but because I've written them off, they are so dead.
I just
Okay,
worry
so-
because the same Portland disease that killed Marvel is now at DC. You know, dun dun dun.
so
Get that
this is
Portland
also
out
a
of
good
there.
good
Go
segue.
ahead.
A good segue as well. Andy Corey is, of course, associated with Comics Alliance. I'm not really familiar with that website and all the people that came out of it and the positions of influence that they're all in. But you know, we talked about it a little bit, and I wanted to learn some more. So, Doctor, could you fill us in a little bit on Comics Alliance, some of the key players in the positions that they've ended up, where they've done things similar to Corey has done with Vertigo and essentially sabotage publishers, you know, intentionally for their own personal agendas?
Oh yeah, certainly. Well, it was a news site, and I guess it was ostensibly done to be more of a actual quote unquote legitimate news. Less Bleeding Cool, less Newsarama, but with actual, you know, your typical activist journalists. And you had a good number of people. It got shut down in 2016, 2017, something like that. And throughout its time, I guess it was around for about 7 or 8 years. And throughout its time, it kind of would cultivate ostensibly journalists, and then they would end up getting hired by publishers, or they would go out and create their own sites. And a lot of the sites that were created that kind of spun out of this still exist today and are, you know, like Comics Beat. That's Heidi McDonald's site. She came out of Comics Alliance. Andy Curry ended up as the, you know, and you know, whenever you try to look at something on Comics Beat, it's almost every time it's almost inevitably going to be something social justice-y, girl power-y. You know, it's not as bad as the Mary Sue, but it's not much better. So you also had, now obviously there were some other ones like Sandwich Boy. Kieran was one of those, was around for Comics Alliance for a good number of years. He tried to transition into other journalism, but well, he's
Not talented.
yeah, he's Kieran. Yeah, he's just a terrible person, and he can starve for all I care.
Is that the guy that tried to crowdfund a sandwich? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah,
guy.
that's why we call him Sandwich Boy.
I forgot about him.
He went to like a big play in London and then didn't have money for a subway.
Yeah, he went
Yeah,
to
he spent like $400 on tickets
Hamilton.
for some J.K. Rowling thing. Or
That was
was it
Hamilton.
J.K. Rowling? Oh, it was Hamilton.
That was-
Oh my god.
Yeah, he went and saw Hamilton in London, and then didn't have enough money for a sandwich because they missed their bus.
Some future planning there could have helped out a lot.
I've actually
he's-
heard that his wife makes good money and like all of his e-bagging, like it's not necessary, but he does it because people feel bad for him.
I doubt that because they've almost gotten evicted a couple of times.
Yeah.
And
How can you be an adult and still have these problems? What the fuck?
He's not an adult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not. He's
He's
he-
regressed, isn't he?
he may be in his mid 30s, but he has the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old.
Yeah, he lives on the public dole. So I don't
Yes.
think his wife makes any
Every
money. He
picture
lives
I
on the
see of him
public
looks
dole.
like he needs to take a shower. It's like, oh,
he
dude.
really does. He
He
looks
almost went to jail for tax evasion because he
Yep.
hadn't been paying his taxes on his e-bagging. So
he's the guy that claims he got, he's the one that stiffed a trans artist on a project they were working on, never mailed out, like, it's been like 3 years and he's only finally mailing out the last of the books that he crowdfunded for some crowdfunded project. He also stiffed the artist. That was the one that Ethan tried to get work for, and she told him to fuck off.
Right.
After she was complaining about the fact that she was broke and Sandwich Boy stiffed her on a project. So
Mhm.
Ethan tried to get her.
I remember
Ethan tried to drum up work for her, and she told him to fuck off. So
Yeah, I
he just said,
remember that.
"All right, fine, screw you then." But yeah, so he's the one that he took a. I mean, we could go into Sandwich Boy all day long, but he's really not worth it. He's just more of a joke than anything else.
He has no influence.
Yeah.
No.
But
Well, he has
Jen-
pretty much everyone blocked, doesn't he? So
yeah, but another one that came out of there is Jen de Guzman, the one that started the hate campaign against Peter Smetty. The
Yes.
one she's the one, every time you see some lunacy starting, it almost inevitably starts with Jen de Guzman.
So she's a social media influencer.
She is, but she's fucking crazy bitch too. She's the one that what was the one that she did recently? She went after, oh god, it was just some normal pro. Who was
I remember this.
oh no, I think she's the one that started it against Dan Pedosian the other day.
Yes.
I think that was her again. Almost all of these outrage mobs initially get started by her. So you've got Jen de Guzman, Andy Curry, Heidi McDonald, Sandwich Boy. Then you had David Brothers. David Brothers ended up with Image for a long time, and he was new media or new projects. Basically, he was kind of the gatekeeper at Image for what projects they decided to push and what direction they would push with the type of projects they were picking up. So that's why Image kind of became Failed Screenplays Are Us, and also started pushing very outside of projects done by any of the Image partners. Why you haven't heard of any great, amazing Image title? Remember 10 years ago, you'd always hear about this new Image book that was just, it was mind-blowing. You don't hear about that in the last 5 or 6 years, and that was because of David Brothers' influence. It just ended up as a bunch of pandering. That's how you end up with man-eaters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because of people like David Brothers. And he's left Image, but guess where he is now? He's now the editor-in-chief of Viz Media. Do you know what Viz Media does?
Oh,
Viz Media is the company that basically handles most of the translations for manga in and production and distribution of Japanese manga into English for the American market.
You're making me a
Yeah,
little
they
worried,
drink-
man. Some of the manga I buy is from Viz.
And you wonder why you're starting to see anime manga gate.
Yeah, because the translations are changed.
They're already even admitting that they're changing the translations to eliminate quote unquote problematic cultural issues.
Right.
And that's David Brothers. He's the editor in chief over there, and they basically have the license for pretty much everything coming into the States.
You're
Andrew
freaking
Wheeler,
Jeremy out, man.
I'm worried. I'm scared.
Another one is
Goes deeper.
Andrew Wheeler. Andrew Wheeler is one of those guys that he's still a journalist, but he's one of those ones that you would see pop up all the time trying to pick fights with Zach and trying to claim that Zach was a homophobe, racist, bigot, xenophobe, everythingist. He's still around. You'll see him from time to time. I think his Twitter handle is just like @Wheeler or something like that. I believe Andrew Farago was
Wasn't
there.
his wife like big in the comics gate for a while?
Not. I
That's
think
Mindy
she went
Wheeler.
after. Yeah, that's Mindy
Same person?
Wheeler. That's
Mike
totally
Wheeler's
different
wife.
Wheeler. Yeah,
Sorry,
totally
sorry. The
different
Wheeler
Wheeler.
name threw me off.
Yeah,
Yeah, they own a shop. I
yeah.
believe.
They just owned a shop. But Andrew Wheeler's a journalist.
Okay.
He's one of the ones that's gone after a lot of people. I think now this one I'm not entirely certain of. I think Andrew Farago was a contributor, and he's another one that you've seen. You see him pop up all the time. You know, he's another quote unquote journalist that constantly attacks Comicsgate. He was
Bloggers.
yeah, mostly a blogger. And then the last one is Chris Sims. Chris Sims, they tried to bring him in to be a writer for Marvel for a couple of years. I think the only thing he ever really did, he started getting some work writing for Marvel around Secret War. And I think he did the X-Men 92 series, which, it was just dumb. It just wasn't any good. I can't really say anything bad about the guy. He was just a bad writer.
That 92 thing was interesting, but like, why?
Yeah, it was like they just wanted to
neat.
make.
Mm.
Yeah, it was it's cool. It's X-Men the animated
Oh,
series
I remember that.
in the
okay.
comic form.
We already have that, but that's cool.
There's other people, and I know that their names sound familiar that I've in my research of them, but I don't, I can't put, attach them to any specific behavior or actions or anything like that. But just know that Comics Alliance basically existed to peddle outrage and push social justice themes and demand them in comics, and they became very, very big. They were
I'm checking their website out. Everything's like 2 years old. I can't believe it's still up.
Well, they got shut down. They got bought out by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
They did get shut down because I don't think they were ever getting a lot of traffic. The thing is, they were always getting anytime the actual media, like Entertainment Weekly, Deadline, any of those, entertainment media would bring in comics, they would always reference Comics Alliance because that was like the go-to reference for them. And most of their shit was just shove social justice themes, make demands, demand, and outrage. Think about it as Bleeding Cool that tried to pretend they were journalists and never did Rich's backbending to avoid any sort of journalism. The thing is, they just never got called on the carpet and anytime somebody would, they had a lot of friends in the real media that Rich and the people from like comicbook.com, they don't have. I think some of them, I believe some of the Comics Alliance people might have ended up at Sci-Fi Wire, but I'm not sure.
I do like this one article's headline right here. It says Josh Whedon to direct solo Batgirl movie for the Warner Brothers. That aged great.
Josh Whedon?
Yeah. Or Josh.
Oh,
Yeah,
dang.
Josh. Yeah.
Oh,
hey, Wonder
okay.
Woman, you've got
Say,
company. Good company. No, you don't.
Oy,
That did not age well at all.
Yeah. And they're a lot of, in my opinion, the current issues in comics stem back to them. They started getting big around 2007, 2008. And it was kind of during a lull period in comics. There were still some decent stuff out there, but there was a little bit of a lull around that time of interest, and it was a good time for them to really break in. There wasn't any sales weren't incredible, they weren't bad. It was just kind of in a holding pattern. The industry was trying to figure out where it was going next.
That's when the infection. That's kind of like patient zero. Right?
Yes,
that's when the infection really took hold.
Yes,
was around 2008.
Exactly, and that's where they all came out of. The infection started with the media, and from there on, it just they started leaving Comics Alliance and getting replaced by some new, no-name person that had the same beliefs as them. And, one person would end up at one company, one person would split off. And, now they had two sites because you had like Comics Beat and you had, Comics Alliance. And then you had, and then one guy would get hired to be, with Image. One guy would be hired to write a book for Marvel. I think Kate Leff did a couple of contributing articles on there, which wouldn't. It's really the patient zero for the current infection in comics, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking here. This is, you can actually see, this may be the earliest source that I've ever seen for the term toxic masculinity. And it was around a Punisher. It was a Punisher article in 2008.
Yep.
And that was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So you could see the progress now.
Jeez, what a snowball effect.
The degeneration that's occurred since then. So I mean, people think when the people think of SJW Comics, they think of what's happened in the last, they think of Iceman, they think of what's happened in the last 3 to 4 years, but it's gone much further back than that.
It started way earlier than that, and it started in the comics media, not the comic industry. The other site that you can probably lay some of the blame on would be IO9. You got a couple of guys, you've had a number of people that came out of there that have gotten into the industry as well. Charlie Pulliam Moore, Evan Narcisi, Charlie Jane Adler.
So what do you gotta do? Just shit on the industry enough and they'll give me a job? Is that how that works?
Well, they fawn over certain things, like literally just fall over, begging to suck its dick.
If I just start writing articles about shitty white men, will I get a fucking job at DC? Is this how this
you
works?
might.
You
Well,
like that? Doesn't
if you
hurt.
start an online campaign saying, DC, how could you promote this book? Look at this toxic masculinity. You need to hire me in here so I can come and fix your series and do some oversight. You guys are crazy. And then
That seems
they
like
make
more work.
it happens. It happens everywhere. But and then these idiots, that are in charge, like, oh man, I never even thought about that. We really do need someone here to come in here and look at this.
Well, guys,
Yeah.
one guy's really mad on the internet. He might make other people mad. We better fuck everything up. Hire him. Get him
Yep.
over here.
That's
Yeah,
what Twitter
exactly.
does. It makes little bitty small issues seem like they're enormous, and people react to them, and then they start taking corrective measures for things that aren't broken.
Got a retweet. It's got 12 likes. What the hell are we gonna do?
No, I think Wes just hit a big point that is often really not given enough attention. I think is that vocal minority, which has always been it's always been and it's always will be an issue to have in the vocal minority. But in the days of social media, it's really become exaggerated just because the vocal minority has such a loud mouthpiece now. And unfortunately, in the world of comics, and when I say the world of comics, I'm really mostly referring to the big two. Yeah, obviously you could have all your little indie publishers and stuff, but the big two, the people that usually rise to the top, become editor in chief or whatever, these guys didn't go to school to become businessmen or anything like that. These are comics guys. They loved comics. They've been in comics for so long. They know the industry so well. And they eventually got to a point, they stayed long enough that they just started making, running the show, which is great. It's been great for a long time and it's worked. The problem is a real businessman knows that you don't cater to the vocal minority. You have the idea that you can't please everybody. In comics, these guys, they didn't learn this. They have become so reactionary, and it's these little, I'm listening to the story the doc was telling and stuff, and I'm looking at this website and stuff, and I can easily see the patterns that they fall down. And it's like, you see a small 1% screaming and hollering about all these problems. And it's like, oh my God, we got to change this ship. And that's not what you do. And it's become evident. And then the problem is you'd think that 10 years later, you'd look and say, look at all these fans we lost. We didn't really gain that many to replace them. Maybe let's steer the ship. Maybe we're doing something wrong. The problem now is they can't do that because the replacements to themselves that they hired were the very people crying in the streets, that vocal minority. Those are the people that got hired. Those are now like Andy Curry. Those are the people making comics and hiring people to do the comics. So they ended up hiring this vocal minority, and that's what's killing the comics. They put the poison in the well, and it's going to take a long time to make it pure again.
So these people have literally done nothing but bitch online, and that was their resume, huh? No other job experience, like crying online.
Well, Doc can attest that one of my favorite sayings is that activists are not consumers. And
they're not.
We see that
That
over
right
and
there.
over. They do not buy. These are people that bitch. They're not purchasers. They're not people that are going to be staying with the title, staying with the company, that are going to try to prop it up with sales. These are people that are going to bitch and moan and then move on to the next industry, the next cause that they can find somewhere else and bitch and moan. And that's all they do. And they leave every single industry that they've touched in ruins. Because
You're opening my eyes so much to some. It's like, because all the books now are just nothing but bitching about white people, and these people that write them bitched about white people online. That's their job. That's all they ever did. You should almost have a blue collar job.
Look, you've got literally 4,000 to 5,000 people that just go from one industry to the other, bitching and moaning. They do not buy. They're poor. These are poor people. These are people that are probably on welfare or survive by the skin of their teeth, crowdfunding and eating cat food, and they have no money. They cannot, they can't buy anything because they have no money. But the people that have money are going, what the hell happened in my company? What happened? What the hell happened to comics? What the hell happened to Star Wars? Well, you've got these cat food eaters over here that are trying to change, You got these social justice cat food eaters over here that are just bitching and moaning and trying to change the world one broken industry at a time. That's what it comes down to.
Well, look at what's
shame.
going on. Look at what's going on in the big two, right? You can see this is evident because Marvel is the most guilty at hiring the vocal minority to fill their roster or whatever. So, and this is why the Heather Antos incident became so important and the whole milkshake thing, because it was evident that Marvel had just decided we're going to go away from the old ways. We're going to hire all these activists, non-comic people to fill the ranks because they'll work for cheap and we'll get
They'll work for
brownie
nothing.
points. Yeah, we'll get brownie points for being diverse, having all these female. I mean, I think most of Marvel's assistant, everyone's female over there now because they got a show. Like, look at our representation. Meanwhile,
female man.
DC, in order to compete with Marvel, has been, to give credit where credit's due, has been hiring the best names in the business. If you look at all the top writers, unless these guys have gone on to do their own independent stuff, they work at DC. There's no big names at Marvel anymore. They all go to DC, and that's why DC has been resilient because they still have comic guys working at there. Whereas Marvel got rid of all the old comic guys, brought in all the Comics Alliance type people, and it's just destroyed their company. And how do you get rid of that? How do you clean that out? It's because they're not going to fire themselves. They're not going to fire themselves, right?
Well,
once you get to that stage, you're dead.
Well, there is a way. There is one solution for it, and that is to start firing one at a time. It's going to be a process. The thing is, everybody
Doc,
thinks
if you don't fire yourself.
No,
yeah, I don't see
you
CB doing any of that.
No, but
Sana Amanat is in charge.
I understand that, but there has to be somebody at Disney that is willing to. I mean, hell, Ike is still in charge. And as much as the guy is a giant asshole, he's also entirely about money. If there's enough people that can convince him that the people actually running the show are the problem, he'll fire them.
I think he's convinced and aware. That's why they're making IDW publish some of their other stuff.
Well,
they're going to drop that entirely.
I don't think so, because I think they can still make more money in that division because he still has.
House of Mouse wants to deal with comics, man. I think they just want the IP. They keep making their movies.
Disney doesn't. Right. I think Disney doesn't, but I think Ike does, and Ike still has. Ike, the Ike's sale to Disney was weird. It's not. There's still two companies there. And the comics division and the consumer products division still does report to Ike, and Ike actually has there's still internal shares of Marvel that exists, so that if Ike's division is making money, he makes more money. So in addition to the Disney stock, in addition to his whatever the hell he's getting to be on the board of directors for Disney, he's still drawing a paycheck for the president of that division, and with bonuses and everything, he will make more money if Marvel makes money, because I guarantee that Marvel Comics can make more money printing comics than they ever could licensing their comics out.
Yeah.
Both in the short term and the long term.
Yeah, that's what's key there. They can't. The licensing could make some, but nobody's going to make Marvel Comics like Marvel Comics. I mean, I've seen now the new imprints. I think, what is it? IDW now is doing some Marvel.
Spider-Man thing. Yeah.
It is. Oh my God! It is. What is it, Zach? I don't know what Zach's thinking on that one. He's like, "Oh, this isn't so bad. It's crap. This is like some major, just weak ass shit." You know, this is
when
like
you read as much shit.
Yeah, I mean, but on the same token, just open an issue of X-Men. There's
fucking
I don't
terrible.
there is no low. I hear what you're saying, like no one can do Marvel but what Marvel's doing. But honestly, Marvel is doing about as poor as they possibly could. I don't think anyone could do worse than Marvel.
I'm still saying that the IDW doing Marvel, it reminded me of the Bag comics the Bag Whitman comics.
Yeah.
You know, that you would buy that were kind of like off-brand Batman, off-brand Superman back in the 1970s
sure.
and 80s.
Uh-huh.
They were like, oh man, this is bad. And, and I went through and I read them and I was like, the art's weak. The storyline is like one-shot type of storyline. There's no connection between one issue to the next. And it's like, it's like what you would barely consider a competent comic on paper as far as the story with a first-year art student doing the artwork. So it's like, oh man, this is where Marvel is going. Just lock it up. Just quit.
But mainstream Marvel brand comics, I'm saying, are, I think it was Wes. No, someone did a review of like the Age of X-Men, like the IKEA review. Like they illustrate, like, look at this book. It literally was just panels and panels of just, look, it's a room. Here's another room, like empty rooms. It was.
I don't know
I think that was just some guy.
I did see those pictures though. I do know what you're talking about.
Bad. Like even D-list indie companies aren't doing comics as bad as Marvel. Marvel's got a few decent comics they're doing. Avengers has got some quality to it. They're still maintaining Venom.
Guardians of the Galaxy, the new relaunch, is pretty good.
Like they have a few.
Venom is fantastic. Immortal Hulk will probably win the Eisner. Immortal Hulk will probably win the Eisner. Which doesn't mean dick, but it's still a really fantastic read, even if you do hate the writer. They do have some very competent. They have very, very competent titles, but on the whole, there's a weakness. There's weakness aside from those.
It's not just weakness, though. It's garbage. It is beyond just bad.
There are titles of the Marvel that are very, very good. The problem is the core of it is poor. So,
and they put the worst writers on the most important titles.
Yeah,
that's the big problem.
That sucks. That you can't fix stupid.
Like
Wes just did a beautiful. If anyone out there is listening, and you have not watched Wes's review of X-Men: The Winter's End, it's fantastic. It's his magnum opus, and it illustrates almost exactly kind of what I'm talking about, of how far Marvel has sunk. It is, honestly, IDW is a trash company too. Like I'm not saying like, oh look, it's great over at IDW, but Marvel doesn't care. Once they get their licensing fee, and IDW writes a check, it doesn't matter.
Well, if you think Marvel is social justice, oh my God, IDW that's nothing but social justice now.
Also, IDW just claimed a $36 million annual loss for last year and had to borrow $28 million from their primary shareholder. So
that was after they borrowed $10 million from them last year.
So I'll be shocked if IDW Media, which would be the parent company of IDW Publishing, makes it like even more than 2 years, unless they have like a big movie hit, which I don't even think they're producing right now. So I think
I think they need to. They're hoping and praying that Lock and Key ends up a huge hit. Who got it? Hulu or Amazon?
I believe it's Amazon. No, it's Hulu.
Okay. Well, they need to pray that Lock and Key makes them about 50 times as much as Winona Earp did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because otherwise they're fucked.
Yeah, I believe their entertainment portion, which is one that does the TV shows, like it lost $26 million on its own. So it's like sinking the ship almost single-handedly. The publishing only lost like $4 million, but it was actually quite insane. I went and looked at it, and I was pretty shocked because I knew they were in bad shape already. But IDW might be burning down in flames right now.
I think it will be, and that's the problem with hitching your wagon to licensed product only. You can't make money on other media whenever
Yep.
you're already the licenser.
The
Well,
problem
this
though
is
is
how bad it
Marvel.
is.
The
This is
problem
how
is
bad it
Marvel's
is.
not making money
IDW's
as it is.
IDW's corporate bonds right now are rated at a C minus.
They
But
can't
that's
even
not
borrow
but
money.
that's not relevant
That's-
to Marvel though. Like Marvel
Oh, it
is
is
losing
because
money.
it is because that is who that they're trying to tap right now to do their licensing.
No,
to
that's
take
just
the
who's
license.
offering money. I'm sure anyone else, there's other people that would love to print Marvel comics.
Dark Horse would do a much better job, in my opinion.
It-
I believe so. Yeah.
right. And but my point
They would
is I'm not
definitely
trying to
scoop it up,
argue
too.
I'm not trying to argue who would do a good job. I'm trying to more just argue Marvel is sinking ship. They are not making money. They're showing no efforts into trying to make money other than to do short-term exploitation of their customers. And this year, the patterns that they're following in with they're doubling down on the number ones, they're doubling down on the variants, they're doubling down on these
Events.
crossover gimmicks. They're everything that
War
they
of the
did
Realms.
last year. Yeah, if War of the Realms is a huge red flag
Insanity.
of we are dying. This is their death grasp. We're going to try to get as much money as we can as we fall. Because
for the
they're
sake of
showing zero
transparency.
interest. They're showing zero interest in long-term sustainability, and it's all about just grab everything we can now. You know, it's like when a store goes out of business, it's like everything must go. That's what Marvel's doing right now. And when these gimmicks are dried up, when they can't reboot Spider-Man anymore and X-Men, they can't do any of these things anymore, and their sales are 10,000 and less on all their titles, they have to start firing everyone. They can't. Everything's going to collapse.
Well,
And
I think the reason why they're looking at IDW is because IDW is run by their friends.
Right.
All
That's
of the
the point.
people that are currently running
I was going to
Marvel
get to that.
are close with the guys that are currently running IDW.
sure,
And
but IDW's also
so-
got capital.
Well,
No,
not
they
really.
don't. That's what I was pointing out with the corporate bond. They can't even borrow money right now.
Mm-mm.
With
Yeah, they
a
can't-
corporate
they can't-
bond rating of C minus, that's like, Nigeria has a better bond status than that. You can get Greek bonds that are like B plus.
Yeah.
This is having a C minus is basically like getting like a consumer getting like 24% credit cards.
Yeah.
That's they have no capital anymore.
That's why they had to borrow it from their primary shareholder. 'Cause They
And-
couldn't actually get it on the actual market.
And here's the
Prepared.
thing. Here's going to be the problem. Marvel will go to IDW first. IDW will sign that contract, and then IDW will go bankrupt, and no one will be able to publish their shit until that contract runs out.
Exactly. They'll ride that contract, publishing 1 or 2 books a month or something like that, just so they can hold on to that contract.
Saying this is what
And
should do. I'm saying this is an inevitable play. It may not go to IDW. Marvel's going to get out of the business one way or the other. It's either their hand is going to be forced.
yeah,
because-
I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that what will, in my opinion, as a retailer, from what I've seen, the incentive covers are dying. They are. I'm looking at the order sheets on this, and what used to have like number ones that used to have like 50, my God, 30 to 50 variants, now 4 variants. I'm seeing that they are listening as far as that's concerned, as far as the variant titles. I'm seeing.
They're not. I don't believe. I don't believe they're
I'm
listening.
seeing,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm seeing 8 number ones right now over the next 5 months. Whereas last year you were having 3 and 4 number ones in a single month.
Absolutely.
I don't think the relaunching is they're trying to choke back on the relaunching. They're trying desperately to choke back on the variant covers because all the retailers are essentially flooded with them right now. So they're listening as far as that part's concerned. They're not listening for the social justice content.
Quality.
They're not listening to the social justice influence and the quality that's affecting,
Mhm.
but they are listening as far as their publishing habits. So in my opinion, they're starting at the wrong end, but but if they do see some benefit there, if people's giving them advice, then hopefully that will extend on to sweeping out, the dross from their creators. The problem there is that the creators have contracts now. Those shitty creators that are rude to the fans, that cuss everybody out, that can't they can't stop from showing their butthole on well, that's actually DC, but but anyway, I see that they're trying desperately to turn the ship around. It's just I don't know if there's going to be enough. I don't think the water's deep enough for them to do that. So
I have a theory that Marvel's not going to really do anything. I think there will be one more, at least, overhauled management. But the MCU is so big right now, and they're making so much money off of the IPs and farming through the content that's been created 20 and 30 years ago, that it is eventually going to dry up, and they're going to need to move on to more current contemporary storylines for their movies if it's going to continue on, which I think is debatable. So I think Marvel can actually run at a loss to a degree as long as the MCU continues to pull in the money hand over fist like it currently is.
Yeah,
Well,
so
people are going to
Disney
see
can
those MCU movies no matter what, man. They're going to just go. Look how
But
good
here's-
Captain Marvel did.
But here's the thing: once Disney realizes that they can farm out Spider-Man and Avengers and all these characters to keep their properties alive in that sphere, they don't Disney doesn't care who publishes. They care about the big money, like you pointed out, these Avengers films, all these things. And the MCU's doing great. It doesn't matter. Right now they're paying Marvel to stay afloat, and they can have other people make an idea factory, right? They don't need Marvel Comics. And to answer what we were just talking about, I just want to say something. The evidence is not there. Marvel is doubling down on 2018. There's more number ones coming out in 2019. They are doing more incentive or more variant covers in 2019. They have more
That's not true.
titles.
Mm-mm.
No,
West just did
there aren't nearly as many variants coming out in the next 6 months as there were before.
Yeah,
I mean,
Fantastic
looking
Four,
at-
I think, had like 60, right?
well,
yeah, and they
71.
found
They're
out,
not-
oh my
they're-
god, and that busted, and they were like, and they had so many left at Diamond that people did not buy. I saw the photograph I saw was over 50 pallets.
Okay, but that's
Fantastic
not
Four
that-
number
that's
one.
not them listening to the fans or to issue. That's them literally going, "Oh, we didn't sell this." Like they can't do that. They want to do that, and they're not
Yeah, but I'm
doing the
saying-
50 variants per book now. They're just making every book have 5 variants. You see what I'm saying?
No, there's a lot of books that don't even have variants at all now. I'm looking at them right now. They don't have variant. They're trying to fix the publishing issues. The problem
War
is the creative aspect is not there. That's where they're falling down on their
War
face.
on the War of the Realms has a $1,000 price tag.
That's
What?
if you buy all of the variant covers.
All of the
like-
variant, right? What we're talking about.
Yeah, but there's not 1,000.
1,000.
It's not 1,000 cover
$1,000.
price.
Here's
It's because
if
you
you
have
wanna
real-
buy
One
every-
for 1,000. There's a 1 for 1,000 dealer incentive.
Yes,
But the only
no,
people
no.
that's going to be getting that is the only people who are going to be getting that is
If-
Midway,
Midtown.
If you add up all of the,
Midtown.
no. If you add up all of the War of the Realms books, including every variant edition, to be a completist, to get all of it, it's a $1,000 cover price. Now there's
Yeah, but
not.
you're
I'm not
counting
talking,
all the incentives. You're talking about
Yes.
all the incentive covers with that too.
I'm talking about all the variants. If you want to buy all the crossover books and every variant for every book, then you're paying. I'm talking cover price. I'm not talking about hiked up inflation.
It's not cover price. I looked
No.
at the numbers. I did a video on it. Now I saw one company offered every variant of War of the Realms #1 for $300. But you're talking like the 1 in 1,000 variant. That's
No, I'm talking about every issue. If you want to get all of the issues, I'm not talking about a single issue. It costs this much. I'm talking
Well,
about if
not
you
all
wanna
the
buy-
issues have been solicited yet. The event's not over in June. No one even knows. I think it's a 4-month event, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I think the point here where I understand both Ash and Pele's point on this, and I think we're looking at things from a slightly both are looking at it from a different perspective. Ash is kind of focusing on one particular title. Pele's looking at the offerings as a whole. And I think offerings as a whole, with them going down, okay, yes, from time to time, you're going to have a War of the Realms with fucking stupid numbers on the number of different variants that are offered. But at the same time, you're not having as many, X-Men number 12 with 8 variants for no apparent reason.
Right.
You're kind of, you're eliminating the superfluous ones that everybody sits there and go, why is there a variant for this issue? Why is there still 5 variants for issue 4 of a title? That you want to throw a bunch of variants on a number 1. Okay, fine. We'll argue about that later. But I think we can all agree that having 8 variants still on a random number 7 is ridiculous.
And that's what they were doing.
And they're cutting back on that. They're
cutting back on that. They're cutting back on the incentives, which makes a hell of a lot of sense, because nobody's going to order 50 issues of, nobody's going to order 200 issues of Amazing Spider-Man number 12 or 14, 15. I think the 14 was the Craven issue. No, 15, the new Craven issue that came out. They had a really fancy 1 for 100, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing beyond that. So they're realizing that this is stupid. It's not working. So, but the problem.
And if we can cut back on the stupid variants, we can start arguing about the necessity of having 38 variants for War of the Realms number 1 later. We at least we've eliminated the stupid variants, and that's at least a step in the right direction.
Cat variants are coming.
Well, I thought they already did them.
They already did that.
They still do that
Nobody
villain
want 'em.
thing, that villain variant, because I got kind of crabby with that one, where they had like Spider-Man villains, but they would have Spider-Man in the villain on a book that had no Spider-Man or anything.
I think they already.
God.
Yeah, I think they already got done with that too.
Someone's like, "Well, it's the Spider-Man villain thing." Like,
it was-
well, why don't the main character fight a Spider-Man villain then? That sounds
It
like a
was-
great.
It's Conan number 4. It was Conan
Yeah.
number 4 that had like Spidey villains. I'm like, what?
Doesn't make
Makes no
sense.
sense.
Is Conan
They-
fighting the villain?
Well,
He's
Marvel.
not even the Marvel universe.
Marvel well,
Yeah.
now he is, but
He is this month. This month.
but
Yeah.
but no, they've been doing they've substituted out a lot of their ratio variants for monthly theme variants. When Fantastic Four was being relaunched, they did an entire month of every title had a Fantastic Four variant. I think I bought an Amazing Spider-Man that had fucking Galactus on the cover. I bought the Venom. They did an X-Men month, or no, during the Conan month, I picked up the Venom cover, the issue of Venom that had Conan and the X-Men on the cover.
What?
But it was a
What?
J. Scott Campbell variant, so I bought it.
That is. Doesn't make
Yeah,
any
that's that's where they get you. Well, it's like I really don't mind when they have somebody like a J. Scott Campbell, Art Adams. They have these really beautiful artwork front
Art Germ.
variant covers. That's fine.
Guys,
You get like
guys
somebody-
sell.
Art Germ, you've got Adam Hughes. Oh my God. Anything that comes out with Adam Hughes variant, I could order like 50, 100 of them and they'll fly out of the store within hours. But if you get like Scotty Young, oh, please, will somebody please take away Scotty Young's
Variant license.
pen and pencil? Oh, for dear sweet Jesus.
He should be interior
if I have
only,
to-
gimmick interior
I-
only.
Yeah, if I have to see a little bitty little doll face character of
One big
Deadpool
eye,
again.
one
I
little
wanna
eye.
fucking lose.
You know,
Oh, just kill it now. Kill it before it spreads.
it's getting old. It was cute and funny when it first happened, like what 7 years ago. Let's stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop. No.
It's
Yeah, the
time
fact
to
that there's-
stop.
The fact that they're still doing baby variants, Scotty Young baby variants, 8 years later,
Yeah.
the number of them I can count in the clearance drawer. My one LCS has like 8 long boxes of nothing but Scotty Young threshold variants
That's sad.
It's a little much.
over the last 10. It's like one long box. He fills up about a long box a year.
Here's how bad it is.
There's
Avengers
the Scotty Young
684.
corner if you want to check it out.
Avengers 684, the first appearance of Immortal Hulk. The book is selling for $60 to $70 right now. It's only a couple years old. Cannot keep it in stock. There's a Scotty Young variant of that. It's Baby Hulk on the freaking cover of it. I can't sell those at cover price. But the regular cover is blowing out of the store for 60 to 70. Something's wrong there,
yeah,
that you can't
here.
even sell it for $4.
You know what? One of the guys in the chat, Star Tangier, just made a great analogy. Scotty Young is the Funko Pops of comic covers.
Oof.
Oh God, yeah, that's true. Oh God, it's true.
Perfect. That's a perfect analogy. The last time I
It is.
wanted anything the last thing I bought that had Scotty Young on it was when he did New Warriors pre-Civil War 1.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
anybody even remembers that.
I'm just glad he's
Very
not doing stuff for DC. That's where I buy
So-
my shit from.
So real quick, I'm sorry. I was trying to do some research. I had a spreadsheet at one point that I had seen about the numbers, and I can't find it, but I was able to find just the solicits for May. There are 25 War of the Realm books coming out
Yeah.
in May alone, not counting variant
Ow.
covers. If you just buy one copy of each book, it's $109. If you buy
Well,
all
it's
the
like-
variants, I
Well, it's
didn't
like
add
Secret Wars. It's a bleed over event for all of the titles. So
most
Yeah,
of these
every
books.
title in the Marvel universe, is going to have War of the Realms crossover.
Yes,
I
but
believe
most of
April
these-
was $140 if you wanted every book. It was insane.
right,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
mean,
not
it's
including
a crossover event.
Mhm.
yes, but most of these books are not crossover books in the traditional sense. There are some, of course, but they are creating so many new books for this.
Miniseries.
All the little miniseries, the
Yeah.
War of
Yeah,
the
you've got
Realms,
things like War of the Realms,
Uncanny.
Strike Force, War of the Realms. You've got
There's an
Spider-Man
Uncanny
and the
X-Men.
blah blah blah. There's all these special books. Yeah, Spider-Man and the League of the Realms. War of the Realms, War Scrolls. War of the Realms,
Yeah, but I'm not-
Punisher.
But I'm not
War of the
seeing
Realms,
huge amounts
Agent of Atlas.
variants on each one of those titles, though. I'm just seeing the main. Here's the main one. Here's a B variant. That's what I'm seeing as far as my order sheets. Here's the main cover. This is the variant.
Well,
You
for
know,
instance,
one
War of the
variant
Realms,
sits well
New
with
Agents
me.
of Atlas
Mhm.
has 3 variants each. So
That's
if
too
you
many.
buy 4 books,
That's too many. Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm saying they're not doing 50. This is what I was trying to say before. They're not doing the whole like 50 variants of Iron Man. What they're doing is a ton of books with like 3 variants each. And they're spreading
but
it
at
out.
least that's new content. But at least that's new content that they're attaching. It's like, okay, this is a mini series. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. But if somebody wants to read this peripheral part of that, very, very peripheral part of War of the Realms, they can. And if they want to do a couple of variants with that, that's fine.
Okay, but
What the sickness there that I saw though is like with Fantastic Four, where there's 64 variant covers for that.
right. But here's
So-
the thing: is we're both coming at it from I think a different angle. As a dealer, you come at it from obviously how you can sell to customers and things like that, and I appreciate it. But as a customer, I look at it and go, I can walk in and buy one copy of Fantastic Four. I don't care about the other 49 variants, and I'm good. But if I want to get into War of the Realms, this is even more taxing on the customer. Whereas, like, I want to read this book. I want to see what the story's going. 25 War of the Realm books just in May.
Well, do
25.
you remember? You probably not old enough to remember, but do you remember Crisis on Infinite Earths? That they had Crisis crossovers where the only difference was the color of the sky. There was absolutely no Crisis on Infinite Earths content in this book, but it was labeled a Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. But the only difference was the sky, or you had one panel where you had a building that was damaged or something like that, and that was the whole Crisis crossover. But if you wanted to be a completist, DC was saying you needed to grab all of these books. So it's not really something that's incredibly new, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying, though. It does cause a customer fatigue. What a good retailer does, and this is the way that I saw that Snake Eyes Comics, which is one of the other local comics stores around me, does, is they said, okay, here's the main series, and these are the core books for that series is coming out. These are the peripheral books. You don't need these to really complete the storyline. And as long as retailers are kind of, guiding the customers in that respect, then I can see what that makes sense. If somebody is a whale and they just want to be a completist, they can do that. But at the same time, you've got people that don't want to go to that extreme. They don't know why they have to buy these other peripheral titles, and they don't have to. So it basically comes down to being an informed consumer and who is going to inform them.
Well, okay, guys, we're coming up on 2.5 hours, so I wanted to get one last topic in, and then we will do our weekly recommendations, and we'll call it a wrap. So today, the news for the solicitations for Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.'s Black Label Superman Year One came out. It's pretty exciting. We heard about it, I think, back in 2017 when it was going to be a graphic novel. Now it's going to be part of the Black Label universe, or the Black Label imprint. I know, Ash, you were pretty excited about it. What are your thoughts, man?
Well, I'm a huge Frank Miller fan. I mean, he's probably my favorite comic creator of all time. I got into comics with Chris Claremont and X-Men, and I've got a lot of love for Chris. But Frank Miller has written almost all my favorite stuff that in comics is almost all by him. I just love him, and I know he's in recent years a fraction of his former self, and we can all point to different things in his failings, but I think I made a comment on Twitter that I was like, Frank Miller at 25% is still better than most of the crap we see coming out of comics today. So I think it's a great thing. As long as Frank Miller is still alive and kicking and able to make comics, I'm going to devour him just like Kirby fans did to his, final days.
So yeah, I'm also, I'll obviously be buying the story. I'm a little bit more skeptical. Frank Miller, I think, at his best is with a really dark and gritty type of series. Superman's much more hopeful. He's much more like apple pie, wholesome. But I do think the series is definitely going to be attractive to readers. What are your thoughts, Pele?
Yeah, it's going to draw in. I've had a lot of interest as far as the Black Label. What titles are going to be on Black Label? What other content? What information do you have available? And because they loved Batman Damned, that is, the wiener aside, which I guess, haha. Anyway, the Batawang being its own thing, people love this story. They absolutely adore it. And if DC is smart, they're going to bring in Constantine. They're going to bring in Swamp Thing. They're going to write these gritty adult titles, and they're really going to push them to the moon. And that's what they need right now, is they need that content for the 30s and 40s that are kind of milling around, and they're really not really sure what to buy right now, So yeah, I see it as a huge win for them, as long as they don't, which I'm going to interject what Doctor was saying in the previous podcast, is don't just make a Superman title for Black Label and just stick the Black Label on it. Superman's not Black Label. You know, Wonder Woman, you know, aside from a little bit of the Justice League dark stuff, it's not Black Label. You know, keep the gritty characters in gritty. You know, you don't need to throw dirt on your prestige heroes. You know, there's more than enough gritty characters to go around, and they can make an incredible sub label. You know, it's like the Black Label now is what Vertigo used to be, hopefully.
Mhm.
And you know, it's sad that they trashed Vertigo with the social justice nonsense. But if they're going to do Black Label the way that it used to be for Vertigo, then I'm all for it. Oh God, you know, just crank it up and let's go. You know, we
Refresh
can,
my memory. Other than Damn, what else is Black Label?
Well, they
Batman
released
White
White
Knight.
Knight in trade format as Black
That's
Label.
got retro acted into Black
Yeah.
Label,
Yeah,
right?
that was
But the Scott
retroactively.
Snyder, Greg Capullo, I can't remember the name of it right now. That's been announced, and we're talking about the Frank Miller, John Romita Jr. Superman Year One that was just solicited for June, Black Label series.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I just don't.
I'm excited, but like, yeah, I don't want to see Superman being
Well,
gritty.
here's
like
the
you're
thing.
saying.
I gotta interject here because I don't know where this is coming from, because DC has marketed Black Label not as a gritty imprint, but a
Adult.
premier imprint. It's meant to be like, this is the best of the best talent. It's going to be high quality books.
But that's
you
not
know,
the
with,
perception. That's not the
Yeah,
consumer
so you call them
perception.
black like
well,
that.
that's my perception. I'm a consumer, and
No, what I'm saying, that's not the customer perception. They're like, oh, Black Label, that's going to be dark and
but
gritty.
I am a customer. I'm telling you, that's my perception. That, like,
Well,
I'm also a
okay,
customer. I'm
fine.
telling you that's not mine.
okay,
So I guess
so
there's
yeah.
two sides to that.
I expect it to be more adult content, more adult
That's what I'm thinking.
related.
Especially when you have a
oriented.
dick, when you
Yeah.
put the dick on and it's being all
That's-
gritty. Okay, boom.
That's
what
why
I'm
it's
thinking.
printed this big. It's much more expensive. It's for a higher end customer. It's for an adult audience. That's
Yeah.
my perception of DC
I
Black
feel
Label.
it
Right.
is, but it's also not a prerequisite. Is what like DC is saying. This is where we're going to put our mature stuff, but it doesn't mean everything is going to be, you know, nudity and adult. You know, just because it can have that doesn't mean that's
yeah,
what
but
we're
I
going to do.
think that's a mistake, though.
If
They
you put
really
Superman
need
on a
to.
Black Label, I'm expecting them to go fuck Batman in one panel. That's what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah, that's the perception. Then it's like,
Fuck
oh,
most of
Black Superman. It's going to be dark Superman. You know, it's going to be. They're going to kind of investigate his dark side of this.
More
You know,
Red
and
Sun than
Yeah,
Superman for all
yeah.
ages.
Well, I think
all
then
seasons.
the message is being poorly distributed, because I mean, they put Darwin Cook on Black Label. I mean, to say that Black Label is I don't think DC is not communicating well enough, obviously, to retailers like yourself, and B, I think people aren't listening close enough, because I think as a customer, I go to DC and I go, "What's this Black Label about?" And they explain, "Oh, okay." And so I don't know. I agree with you. I mean, there is a misperception.
I guess I'm not going to
this is-
DC
okay,
for
I'm
it. I'm going to my
I'm looking at
LCS,
the-
and the first book I see
You're
is
right.
Batman, and it's gritty, and there's fucking nudity in it, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what that's about.
I'm looking at the dealer ad right here in previews. Black Label, the new DC imprint, exploring mature subject matter, exploring, you know, exploring a darker world for mature readers. You know, it's you know, they're kind of, if that's the case, then they're really sending a mixed message here.
I agree. That's terrible. Like, because like I said, they re-released Darwin Cook's Silver Age thing that he did as Black Label.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, that we were kind of getting confused what the brand was supposed to be, that because they're retroactively making things Black Label, and it didn't really make sense. But with the new series, I hope they stick to more like Batman Damn, the cool large format, the amazing art, the more adult oriented stories, the more adult oriented themes to the overall story arcs. Because I think it'll serve the label and set it apart from what DC is on a week to week basis. That's just my opinion.
How do you guys think? What do you guys think of the large format? At first, I had customers are, oh God, no. And they kind of, they first saw Batman Damned #1 and they're like, oh God, I hope the DC doesn't do this. It's not going to fit in my comic book box. It's not going to, but then they read it and they got the extra real estate for that artwork. And then Batman Damned 2 hit and they're like, oh, this is incredible. I love this big size. Are they making any more that are this format? So
Personally,
what is your perception?
Every month they came out, I stopped because I don't have room to put them anywhere. They're too big.
I don't like the size.
Yeah, I
think
the size.
They're soliciting a hardcover collection of Batman Damned, and I think had they released Batman Damned as the normal, like, the same format that like Dark Knight Returns was, I forget what it's called, but that prestige format, had they released it like that, and then had like the hardcover collection that the solicited, and it's like the bigger format, I think that works well for those type of books that you're meant to put on your shelf. But your individual issues, I would like to see them be normal size, because number one, it fits in your box as a collector and all that stuff. But number two, it helps bring down the cost. And I praise DC for making those books only, what was they, $6.99?
Yeah,
I want to say,
$7.
Yeah, $6.99 for that quality of printing and that size of a book I was like, bravo, DC. Like, you could have tried to rake people over the coals, but they didn't.
It could have been a $10 book easily.
Yeah.
It easily could have been a $10 book.
That's my feeling.
I mean, Detective is $10. Detective 1000 is $10. It's
passing on that.
It's a 96. it's a 96-page giant in prestige format, though. So,
but Action Comics was the same way for $7.99.
Yeah, but it was 64-page.
No, it's not. It was 96.
No, it's 64 for 1000. For Action 1000 was 64 pages. So it's more content, but
do you know how many covers that's getting?
Oh,
billion.
That's getting crazy. Oh my God! But have you seen how beautiful?
Started out as 10.
Well, I had to laugh because like a month or two later during Free Comic Book Day, my LCS had 75% off. And they had all the Action 1000 variants up there. It's like, oh well, there you go.
Action Comics 1000 is 97 pages.
It was okay. All right. Okay, I stand corrected then. But I don't understand then. Then it looks like they're gouging with Detective 1000.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have to go back to Action again because Action 1000 was not my favorite book. It was kind of boring.
No, I didn't really like it.
There's a lot of controversy on this. The way I look at it is, it's a once in a lifetime book. It took 80 years to get to 1000. If they want to celebrate it and go hog wild and charge me $10 and have 50 million copy variant covers, it sucks as a consumer. I wish they didn't do that, but I'm not going to go. There's so many bigger issues to care about, like War of the Realms.
At least there was a theme with Action 1000. At least there was a theme there, like that Superman through the 40s,
Sure.
through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, on and on and on through that until up to the teens. At least there was a theme there. And then
they're doing that with the Detective.
Then you had the individual stores that did, their own shop variants.
Detective's doing the same.
Yeah, but they're also doing like the Harley variant. I'm like, what? Why does Harley have a detective?
Yeah.
What part
I agree.
does Harley have in Detective Comics? They're having the Catwoman variant. Okay, Catwoman may have been in about 4 or 5 issues as far as a main character, but they're not Hallmark characters that were part of the Detective run. So
I just think I'm going to pass on this one after my experience with Action.
I'm personally buying 3 covers.
People are.
There's a Clayton Crane cover, correct?
Yeah,
I'm buying that.
And there's a Jock cover. There's a Jock cover that looks really nice.
Yeah, I'm getting
the Bernie Wrightson. The Bernie Wrightson is like the one that everybody is clamoring for because since he passed away, and that was the last work that he did.
Oh wow!
That was the last cover work that he did was for Detective 1000, and they asked him to do that several years ago before he passed away.
Wow!
So
that's crazy.
Here's the thing. Detective Comics is one of the best books by DC right now. Tomasi's killing it. And unlike Action Comics, 1000, where they like basically killed a great series by Dan Jurgens to give Bendis a book. I mean, Action Comics 1000 was like in the middle of that. Like they literally killed Jurgens' run before it was over, had to give him a special issue to finish his story instead of
Right.
putting it in 1000. And then they started up Bendis, but they're not doing that with Detective. Detective is, they brought on Tomasi, he's been killing it.
999, my feed like blew up of people being pissed off at 999.
Yeah.
Not my favorite issue.
Everyone's like, oh, all that build up for nothing. I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't grab it then because I was going to. What happened?
It's
The reveal
fine.
wasn't great.
People
It
were
was-
pissed,
Yeah, it was
man.
lackluster.
yeah,
That was a lackluster reveal.
I bought all that investment for nothing. That's all my news feed was for like about a day or two. I was like,
oh my goodness, that's just outrage culture. It's this. I think Tomasi did a really good setup of doing what Action Comics was trying to do with the whole, like through the Superman through the ages. Tomasi told a story about Batman and how all the people that helped Batman become who Batman was in a kind of a creative way to set up what now hopefully Detective Comics 1000 is going to launch into his continuing run.
I hope it's good because it wasn't the conception I got.
Well,
One thing talking about Action Comics 1001 launched the Red Mist line, Mist storyline, and that was good. I don't care, you're talking about the Naomi, comic that's isn't it called Naomi?
Yes.
I think so. Yep.
And that storyline was really good. I have a lot of people that are reading Action just because of that storyline after 1000.
well, the first
I
two
wish
issues
that
were
they-
good.
Why didn't they kind of connect that in 1000 with one of the stories in there, but they didn't. So it was a missed opportunity there.
Well, I mean, it's Bendis. He didn't even continue that story.
Mm-mm,
The Red
hasn't
Mist
finished it.
story, the Red Mist just died. It started off really well, and then they turned it into a story about Superman being cucked by his wife and cheating on him with Lex Luthor. And then they went on, and now it's Leviathan. And you're like, what the hell's going on?
Bendis with his good ideas and bad execution sounds just like him.
Right.
Yep.
Mm.
All right, so we got about 10 minutes left. We hit all the subjects we said we were going to. Lots of bonus material. Doc killed it on that Comics Alliance bit. He had to
Yeah, he
leave,
did. Good.
but I think he did great. I think anyone that watched that's going to have their eyes open to the problem's much deeper and bigger than you think. But so let's round it off or finish it off with our weekly comic book recommendations. Jeremy, what are your recommendations this week?
I have it right here. I'm very excited about it. The Goon. This issue was amazing. Everyone check it out. I love Eric's work. I'm glad this is back. By The Goon.
Can
That's all I have.
you tell me why the Goon is good? Because I don't know anything about it.
Like the specific issue or just in general?
Or just in
It's great
general,
art.
what's the allure of the Goon?
It's all supernatural, fighting undead stuff. It's hillbilly Hicks. It's just good stuff, man. It's great. Goon's amazing.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you.
All right,
I
with
was,
that,
I was not expecting to see it on the shelf this week, so I was like, "What the? I'm buying that." Be ready for a surprise.
That's always awesome.
Yeah, it's a happy accident. Glad I hit your feel spots, man.
Right in the
So-
feels.
We'll slow it over to you, Ash. What are you recommending this week?
This week as like coming out.
No. What came out this last week that you recommend? I'm assuming it's gonna be Hawkman.
You know me too well. Hawkman number 10 was awesome. And just when I keep thinking this title is gonna like peter out, it's like, okay, they told this great origin story. Okay, now they're continuing, they're on the sequel story arc. It can't keep up this pace. It's got to have lull moment, and it's not. Venditti he's telling a story with action. It's got no filler. It's got heroism. I was like getting choked up in the last issue, and I was like, why can't comics be like this? It's so simple, and I don't even like Hawkman. Like I'm not some like old school Hawkman fan who's just trying to talk this book up. Like previous to this run, I was like, Hawkman's stupid. Like who likes Hawkman? And now I'm like a Hawkman fan. So that's
Give me the hawk.
Absolutely.
It's so
Give me
good.
that dorky
I love the
mask.
hawk.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
He's turned this character into something else.
You know, if you really want to get into Hawkman, I read Jeff Johns' little run. I think it was the first 2 or 3 story arcs. It's actually pretty good too. It's not quite as good as Venditti in my opinion, but
How old is
Jeff
that?
Johns is great.
Recent?
I might go back and check it out, but yeah.
I think it was
Was that pretty recent, Wes, or how old was that?
Yeah, it's definitely within like the last 10 years. I want to think it's 2012, but I might be wrong. I don't remember exactly. But that one's fun. I bought it on Comixology during the sale, and it was worth every penny. Paley, what are your recommendations from your store this week?
Well, I'm not going to subject everybody to our store recommendation because that was not my pick. I did not pick Avengers No Road Home #5. The reason was that it was picked is because of the Conan cameo. You know, Conan is now in the Marvel universe. If you want to get that from a speculation perspective, it probably is going to be worth some money down the road. The next issue is going to be, first cover of Conan in the Marvel universe. So, that's probably going to be a good spec book to pick up.
I am curious about how that happens. So, yeah, well,
it'll be interesting. He's supposedly going to be really beefed up as far as power levels. So we'll see what happens with that.
Just curious on how that works. Just want to know, yeah.
I know, but my personal recommendation is Grim Knight #1, Batman Who Laughs, Grim Knight. It was good. I thought it was really good. So if you like the gritty, more adult side of DC, then it's a good. I thought it was a good book, and I would recommend that.
Also, just as a question, the Grim Knight was introduced in which issue of the Batman Who Laughs? Was it 3?
That was I believe was it 3 or 2?
I thought it was 3, but it might have been 2. So do you think whichever issue that he was introduced in his first appearance, is that going to be something that people should be getting in on if they want to speculate and have something for their collection that in the future might be worth something?
Yeah, I think that everybody you need to go back, and if you're going to speculate as far as DC Comics, you need to go back and get the Batman Who Laughs whole miniseries, because there's lots of little treasures as far as, there's going to be a lot of little first appearances. There's going to be a lot of little events that happen in there that are going to be springing up years down the road. So it's probably a good idea. There's some really nice jock variant for each one of those issues. I recommend that variant cover. They're beautiful. That's going to be a good spec to pick up. The Batman Who Laughs and the Grim Knight #1.
Yeah, because I've noticed that character is picking up steam similar to the Batman Who Laughs before, where people are being drawn to it immediately, and he looks pretty cool. He's loaded to the max with weaponry.
Grim Knight #1. I'm looking at the Grim Knight #1, the Delato variant. It's blue. It's got the back of the Grim Knight, and you can literally see. I'm looking at it, and it's like there's like 50 weapons that are like strapped to this guy. He's like,
how many pockets though?
Oh my God! It's absolutely unbelievable. He's got a machete.
Minimum of 5.
Like 5 or 6 different automatic weapons on him. But done by Delato, absolutely gorgeous. So I recommend that one. If you're going to get any of them, then get that variant.
Awesome. So my pick this what's up? Oh, my pick this week is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder in Hell #2. It's written and drawn by Mateus Santaluco, and it is amazing. I'd never actually seen his art before, but it's actually it's like mind blowing. It's Shredder's in Hell. He's revisiting all the demons of his past, his father, his mentor. Splinter is in his rat farm. He's kind of like taking him through his to the abysses of hell, and he's fighting the turtles and everything. And it's amazing.
How many issues are you on?
What's that?
How many issues are there?
This is issue 2. It's a 6-part miniseries, I believe.
That sounds really cool. I might have to run to the LCS right now and pick that up.
You should.
Yeah,
it is awesome.
We have it. I just hadn't read it.
He's really in hell though, like not just like in his mind. He's in hell.
No, he's dead. He's traversing hell,
That's
And then
awesome.
Splinter's kind of like walking him through it, and people are accusing him and telling him all the things that he's done. And I think eventually he's going to have to make a decision for his soul, kind of thing. That's what it looks like to me. But
So it's kind of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles version of Dante's Inferno.
I was just
something like that. But it's really cool, and the art, I couldn't believe it because like I said, I never read a book by him, and he's the writer and the artist. And I'm reading, I'm like, man, this is amazing. Like, this is all really trippy. And so definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun. IDW doesn't put out a lot of great work, but their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, for the most part, is good. And, I think their Ghostbusters stuff, for the most part, people like as well.
Yeah, as long as they avoid the female ghost.
Answer the call now. It's been renamed. They wouldn't rename the movie even to Answer the Call. I love that.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is great because I got tired of saying Ghostbusters 2016. I got tired of doing that. So I'm glad they called it Answer the Call.
There you go.
Yeah, right. So I think that'll end everything. We'll take a round. Everyone can say goodbye. Any last words or alibis? Jeremy, we'll start with you.
Hey, shifting the turbo. Show me your floppies.
Oh yeah. Also, where can they find you, man?
Oh, you can find me at -1digit on Twitter. That's about all I'm really shit posting on.
So when's your BitChute channel gonna come up, man?
I think I do have a BitChute out. There's one video of me just making fun of Deathsworn, but again, I don't know. That's it.
Well, if you want to see that, sub to the channel and go check out his Deathsworn video.
Go to, I think it's -1digit on there too. Deathsworn, making fun of it.
All right, Paley, got anything else to say, and where can people follow you, man?
You can follow me, Just Pele, on Twitter, where I usually shit post and throw shade at Mark Wade and usually Cinegrace or one of the usual suspects. I think Gail Simone was this week. But yeah, that's where you can find me, on Twitter. Follow the screaming Pele.
Yeah, and I will say, if anybody wants to hear some thoughts from a retailer that isn't afraid of Marvel or Diamond or any of the publishers, and you want to hear an unfiltered voice from a retailer, Pele is your guy because he gives zero fucks.
Zero fucks. None of them.
Nice.
Not a one.
And so last but not least, Ash, where can people find you, man?
Hey, first off, Wes, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I love talking to you guys, everyone on the panel. And you can find me on Twitter, Ash1138 on Twitter. And then also, just to give myself a shameless plug, Sergeant Bats, one of my buddies, and we do a weekly show every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Pacific. If anyone cares to listen to us rant and rave and goof off. And also one quick thing too, I forgot to mention in my recommendations, Die by Image Comics.
Ooh,
just wrapped up its first eight story arc, and they're going on hiatus until the fall. So you got plenty of time to catch up, and they said all their books are still in solicitation, so you can get issues 1 through 8. And your stores can order them still, so you don't have to worry about even tracking down back issues if you have a good retailer.
Yes, I will second that. Die is awesome. Also, if you have Comixology and you want a series that's worth reading, on the Ash and Bat show, they do a weekly, I believe the format of the show is reviewing a big Comixology story, correct?
Yes, every week we do a different Comixology book. If you have Comixology Unlimited, we make sure it's always available on there, so you don't have to pay any extra money. And it's kind of like a book club. We read the book, we invite other people to read the book, and then we discuss it on the following show.
Yeah, so if you have Comixology and you're looking for recommendations, or you want to interact with someone that's going to read the book with you, go check out Ash and Bats. Those guys are both great. I've had them both on. I've had Bats on the show as well, and they're all really nice. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us on the live stream today. The channel just went over 200 subscribers, so it's a small milestone, but it's a big milestone for me personally. I think we went over 100 also on a live stream, maybe 5 weeks ago. So that was really awesome. We're going.
We're actually live, else I get a little too nervous. I gotta just pretend.
But we're growing much faster than I anticipated, and picking up steam. So thank you for reading or watching all my videos. There should be a basic comic news video out tonight before I go to bed, and then tomorrow I'm finally going to do my Bendis rant video as well as a Teenage Mutant Ninja. What's that?
I can't wait for that Bendis rant. I'm
Oh
excited.
yeah,
I'm looking
I've
forward
got
to that
things
one.
percolating in my head, but I got to be in the right frame because he deserves my full wrath.
Here it comes.
And then also tomorrow I'm going to try to get a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder in Hell review out as well. The book's really high quality and it deserves any type of spotlight I can put onto it. So with that, thank you all very much for joining us. We had a great time. This is definitely the most interaction we've had from the viewers, and the panel was great, and Doctor was absolutely phenomenal on his
As
breakdown.
always.
That's why we kicked him out.
Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah, he dropped the mic and got the fuck out of here once he dropped all that knowledge. So, Salamapo, everybody, and thank you very much.